It's Saturday. You know what that means. It's time for another Call to Action Live. And I am here tonight, as always, the Belford. And tonight I'm joined by the co host with the most host, Mr. PLD. What up, PLD?
Not much, man. Not much. I'm excited. We had a week of matches to break down. A pay-per-view yesterday that kicked all sorts of ass. This was a very exciting time, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It seems like the start of the season has been every week. We're like, man, what an amazing week. There's no way they could top that. And every week they somehow find a way to top it. Again, it was another great week. Really good matches all across the board. An amazing pay-per-view event.
Yeah.
Two fantastic matches between four really top tier competitors, which is what you always want to see. And then also, there's some spice, some spice to these matches. We have some former teammates breaking up. We had some former faction mates going at it. So it's what you like to see. It's what makes the Schmodown great.
And of course, we've talked about a couple of weeks now, but it's the return of the cutscenes and the acting, and there were some funny ones and this good ones this week as well. We can break those down.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I love about the cutscenes is there's like something for everyone in the cutscenes. Like if you like, like those wrestling style cutscenes, we have those. If you like funny cutscenes, you have those. And then also like they're even getting better and better. Like the music and the cutscenes are now getting better and better. Obviously, some fantastic acting from people in the showdown, which is what you like to see from people who are really capable of doing that. But yeah, we have a jam-packed show tonight. We are going to be joined first off by a former movie trivia showdown champion, a man who would like to claw his way back to the title that he feels is rightfully his. You know this gentleman fairly well, PLD. It's that guy, the guy you love to love and the guy you love to hate. Somehow both. I don't know how that is, PLD. Basically, I think you just love him. It's a weird thing.
What it is, I'll explain it real quick for everyone. What it is in action industries, I love them. I love hanging out with them, love talking stuff with them, talking movies and everything else. In the Schmodown, though, I am Team Guy. But right now, Team Guy is locked away. I mean, he's just now starting to come out of shell. We don't know where he's going to be. So until Team Guy picks a team, I might as well stick with the boys in the dungeon, right?
Sure, Paul. Any excuse you have to
just give me the Bateman, sure. The patented Ben Bateman, sure.
Right, patented Bateman, sure.
Well, we're talking too much. Let's bring him on. One and only.
Yes.
Ben, the Boss Bateman.
What's going on, fellas? Good to see you. Look at this.
Always good to see you, Ben. Thanks for gracing us with your presence as we discuss your matches and the whole pay-per-view from this weekend. How you feel today? Let's start off right now. Here it is the day after. What's your thoughts right now?
I feel great. It's always the first match of the season is something just in itself. It's just always such a hurdle. You take time off in the off season, but this was the longest I'd ever gone without playing a match. Almost 6 months I'd taken off, and a lot had happened in 6 months. Adam Collins had his entire reign in 6 months. And so I think for me, getting back into it, I knew what I needed to do. I knew what I wanted to do. But the funny thing is the difference between winning and losing nowadays is, Riley in our match, which we're going to get to, missed several questions. And I missed one question. And if you're going to win, it's kind of how you have to do it. If you miss several questions most of the time now, it's over. You don't win the game. So it's very easy to miss a few questions. The fives are ridiculous often. Sometimes you get a curveball in round 2, and there's usually one curveball in round 1, which there's usually opportunity in a 3-round match to miss around 3 questions, even for an elite player. And so I think you playing against a guy like Riley, who's got, in MMA, it's reach, but in Schmodown, it's like age. Age is your reach. And he's got that reach on me and that height, so to speak. And so knowing that that's the case, I just knew it could go wrong. And I was as prepared as I could be, but I still was worried because you can never underestimate your opponent. I know how good Riley is. I mean, I was, teasing him.
I will say, definitely, I heard you talking about it before. You took him seriously. I mean, a lot of people were like just predicting you were to knock him out or TKO him, and then his past his prime. But you didn't. You took him pretty seriously. You weren't gonna let that get to you.
You have to. Because again, like if you watch some of these rookie matches, you watch some of these people that are coming up now, or you go back and watch old matches from the days when it was like friends of Christians who would come on to play, or, you know, just people who didn't really know what they were doing. You'd see matches where like both competitors getting 5 in round 1 was kind of common, or even like a 6-4 outcome, that kind of a thing. And round 2, you know, if you have 8 points available to you, getting 5 was a pretty serviceable round. That was kind of expected. So you could see often like a 10-9 game going into the last round. And Riley ain't that player. There are days Riley's going to come in and he's going to get 5 in round 1 because he, you know, as I joke, I shaky hands, or he just kind of gets the deer in headlights for a second. But I mean, most of the time you're going to expect 7 points out of Riley in round 1, 6 to 7 in round 2. He's going to hit his 2 and his 3. That's what I would expect from him. I would figure he'd go close to perfect in both rounds, and it would come down to the 5, which he made one real error in this game. But you have to take a guy like that seriously, because if you don't, and you think you're going to get some softball where you knock someone out, you're just going to get caught on the chin. And there is no sympathy for guys who get caught on the chin, for people, I should say, that get caught on the chin these days in the league.
Fair enough. Before we go on to your match, I think we should talk. We're going to break into the whole pay-per-view, because I have a feeling you might have some comments on Roca and LeShannon Miller and the manager that you call a buffoon or an idiot or whatever.
I don't have to call him. That's what he is.
Before we do that, real quick, streamlabs.com/call-to-action-pod. We do have one raid from Weston Iro just saying, look at these fine peeps. Thanks, Weston. Always appreciate your support. But Billy, go ahead. You had a thing you were running.
Yeah. It's funny because the league now, it's not even like how many questions you missed. It's what questions you missed. I mean, recently we had the Jader and Janine match. Jader answers more questions than Janine does. He has a higher accuracy rate, but because of when he misses his questions is determines, you know, the win or the loss. Like, have you changed your preparation at all with the new face of the league, or?
I mean, the short answer is yes. It changes every 2 weeks, Billy. I mean, there's a different idea or thought process. I get a flash of insight, you know, something I'm convinced I know the secret code. So yeah, I mean, I spent 7 hours on the day of the match, leading up to the match, preparing 7 straight hours. Wow. I had one work thing I had to do in the morning, and I'll be honest, I was studying during the work thing. Otherwise, I went straight through. I mean, there's so much that goes into a match nowadays that, yeah, you have to check all the boxes. And then this crazy thing happens where the day before a match, and I would bet this happens to everybody, you go, I could get asked tomorrow about any movie ever. I can't prepare for that. There's no way I can prepare for that. And I had, over the course of the last 2 months, a laundry list of ideas and things that I wanted to study and prepare for. And you don't even have a chance to study or prepare for all of them. Not even close. I've told the 1408 story before. I mean, that's how close you can sometimes get to studying the right thing. And it can be the difference between winning or losing a match. And you just got to do the best you can, is the point. Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. You have your 1408 story, and then Kalinowski famously has is like the Jerry Goldsmith, like what Star Trek movies and it was literally the last thing he looked at before he went into the match with Smets, and that's what he wins the match on. So I mean,
you're talking about Star Trek: The Motion Picture, First Contact.
That might be the best Kalinowski impression I've seen, man. That's pretty good.
Real good. I love that moment so much. It says First Contract.
It does. It does.
It's pure sports. Like, he does that. You can see this, and then he starts crying. I love that moment. It's one of my. I told this to Mike before. It's like one of my favorite sports moments I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was a good one. We did the top 10, our top 11 of the. Turn up to 11 show we do. It's just top 11. We mentioned those quite a bit. When Kalinowski's on our IG list and our moments, he just has that tendency to be dramatic at the right time to make those sports moments work.
Yeah,
I'll give him that. But
that's one thing I do love about you, Ben, is like whether you know the answer or not, the delivery is the same. So it's you don't get overexcited in moments, and you don't, or at least you don't seem to get overexcited in moments. So you don't. Maybe it's like a mental thing, so you don't get slip ups like where you're going to misspeak or miss. I call it the Mike the Giancarlo Stanton technique to take your time, relax.
Yeah, it is interesting, the time thing. I was watching back old footage, trying to remember certain misses in matches as I was leading up to this match, and I was watching through that tournament run, and you can see this thing as the time's counting down, and I'm sitting there and I'm listening and I'm thinking, and they start to count, and literally I move my head on the count. It's like it was funny watching it. It's like it was such like a physical reaction to manage like clock management, almost by like moving with the clock. I could somehow make sure that I was going to use every possible second more accurately or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I started doing that a long time ago, and it like, how when you watch a movie right now and you see somebody so close to someone else and you're like, you're not wearing a mask, this fixed it. You're like, oh God, what are you doing? That's like when I watch Schmodown matches and I see people answer too quickly. That's like how it makes me feel. Yeah. I'll see people like answer right away, and I'm like, oh God, what are you doing? Like, that could be wrong so easily.
There you go. You won't catch Ben sing the wrong answer. No, in fact, the only time you'll hear him sing an answer would be if it's 24601, and it'll be absolutely right. Absolutely right. All right, so we're going into the pay-per-view. Obviously, we had beginning had the cutscene with Mark and Clark, which is a fine cutscene. You can see Mark Riley and Clark Wolf together again in a way. It's nice to see them as the former Wolves of Steel, but it was inconsequential for the most part as far as I think story-wise goes. But we have the first match being Roca versus Liz Shannon Miller. What were your thoughts about this match? Everybody has their ideas. What did you think was going to happen? What was your prediction?
My prediction was that Roca wouldn't get in his head playing against Liz, so I didn't expect a mental implosion from Roca. I was impressed with a lot of Liz's play this last year, and so I thought there was a good chance she would go in relaxed. But I also know, Liz is not as seasoned a vet as Roca. So if things started to fall apart at all, I think I expected a little bit of what we saw, which was hard to watch. It's always really tough to watch a player that is talented and knows a lot have those moments, because they happen. I mean, our Shazam match, the last one I played with Who's the Boss, has a little bit of that. Like, even if you're seasoned, you make mistakes. So it played out about the way I'd expect. You also just never know with Roca, right? He's not like Dan or Collins, where you watch Dan, you're like, he's always going to have it. He's always going to have that ace. Or Collins, you're like, he's just always going to know it. Roca, it's like you never know what easy one he's going to miss, but he still manages to grit out so many wins. By comparison to my career, he's played a lot longer. He's played 5 more matches than I have in singles, but we both have exactly 5 matches above a 500 record. Right? I'm 12-7. I think Roca's 16-11. Right. So it's like, it's just that thing where you win enough, you win the big matches enough, and you're going to get a gutsy performance out of him. But it was about how Liz was going to play. Roca played really well, though. I mean, I think he played as well as I know he can play.
Yeah, I will say that absolutely after the match is over, we'll get into a couple of the details about the match specifically. But afterwards, I was impressed with Roca. I had predicted Liz would probably win this. I just felt like Liz was on the rise still. Roca was kind of like having those, insecure. He has those moments where he was inconsistent at times.
Yeah.
And I thought that like this was maybe a time where Liz was going to finally capitalize, and it just didn't happen. Roca she seemed really focused, really, really sharp. Maybe it's because it's the beginning of the season. Maybe I'm not sure. Maybe this is him now. Maybe working with JT and Barbarian has done him some good. Maybe the off season has pissed him off enough. A mean outlaw, mad outlaw is a bad outlaw kind of thing. But
he's got a great captain on his team who's calling the shots that I think is helping him. Who's helping him figure it out. I think Craig's doing a great job running that team, and I think Roca's learned a lot from Craig. So I think for that reason,
you said exactly what I love you for.
The funny thing about Roca is, for someone who's played so long and we've watched for so much, most competitors, I kind of have a read on whether or not I feel like they're going to miss a question or get a question right. Like, Like there's certain questions I'll hear asked you, and I'm like, oh, Ben might miss this. Like obviously anything from Nightmare Before Christmas or like
Sure.
most people's childhood story, like movies. I'm like, Ben might not know this one. Rocha, there are questions where I'm like, I have no read on him. I'm like, he might get this right. He might completely miss this. Like,
it was funny to me that he missed the Oscar question on the steal because I was. So let's just think for a second about the movie Shark Tale, right? So Shark Tale right now, as far as studyable specific slices, fits into Will Smith. It fits into Martin Scorsese because he plays Sykes. It fits into DreamWorks Animation. And De Niro's in that movie, right? De Niro's the other guy, isn't he? Isn't it Will Smith and Robert De Niro?
I want to. Might be right.
Let me know. I'll go.
Who's the other? I mean, who's the co-star? I think it's De Niro.
It is De Niro. Yep,
it's De Niro. Right. That's what I thought. So with the new slices, you get Scorsese, you get De Niro, you get DreamWorks, and you get Will Smith. And Will Smith's been on the wheel since like season 1. So like I've looked over Will Smith's movies more times than I can tell you because he's been on the wheel for so long. You just have to. He's come. I played 41 matches after last night, so like he's been on the wheel in at least like 7 or 8 of them. So the idea that Rocha could be in the league as long as he has and not have an awareness that the lead character in Shark Tale is named Oscar and is played by Will Smith, like, is just, it's like, it was dumbfounding. Like, that is so much easier than which movie in DreamWorks do you see, like, and it's a sequel in Kung Fu Panda. Like, not to say that's a hard question, but literally who plays Oscar in Shark Tale? If you don't know, just guess the star of the movie. Chris Rock's not even in that movie, I don't think.
No, he's not. He's not. Yeah, and to your point, I agree. The sequels are always tougher because they always kind of blend in together. I know, like a lot of times, you actually had a question the Tyler Perry round. We'll get to that later on. Where I was like, is it Boo or is it the sequel?
Boo too. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely have been both. But yeah, let's actually I want to break that down. So obviously, the first of 4 spinners' choice happens. That's unprecedented. I mean, we thought that was bad in Houston, but 4,
I know, crazy, right?
Right?
You didn't see Rockery spinning, did you?
Wow. I guess not. He doesn't have the balls, I guess. But so he has DreamWorks. She chooses DreamWorks, and to me, it was obviously a slice she chose in the wheel. But I always wondered about that seems to be such a broad category to have.
Well, didn't Rocha's one first, right? Rocha's one first and hit sports.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. I'm sorry, I was jumping ahead myself with that. So he got sports, and I think that was a good. I feel like sports is broad, but it's not as broad as some of the other categories. So I feel like it's a good choice for him.
It's a funny category because it's a subcategory, so it's not like studying sports is impossible by any means. But I believe sports was on the wheel because he figured Liz would be bad at it. That's what I got to assume. He put it on and he figured it would be a defensive slice. And he got 8 points. I would have gotten 8 points playing along with him. They weren't the hardest sports questions. They were reasonable sports questions.
I want to say real quick about the one question.
Sports is one of those wheel slices. Sports is one of those wheel slices where it feels like an easy, narrow category, but it actually can turn into a broad, crazy category really quickly.
Yeah, I think the first thing I want to do is congratulate Mike Deacon here. He's in the chat, and he said by next week, C2A airing, I will be married, Jake will be drunk. Big salute to you, Kano. Congratulations to you too. I'm sad I won't be there, but I'm so happy for the two of you, and I can't wait to hear about it and see pictures. And yeah, it's just.
I'm sure there's going to be video from Jake and company all night long to give us FOMO of all sorts. That's all I got.
That's going to be incredible. But yeah, back to the sports comment you were making. It's no more broad than most of the subcategories. It's just that there's so many sports movies that have like a coach or a player that is like a less known actor, or it's like the name of the team or what city. It's like it's sort of standard within the sports movie genre. Like, what's the mascot or team name of this team in this movie? Which, like, if you take the category, you need to be able to get that answer right. But if you ask me that question about most of the sports movies I've seen, I probably won't know.
Right.
So, he got a pretty forgiving set of questions, and it made him look pretty smart for doing it. I don't think it's a bad category, though. I mean, I think there are those subcategories people can be good in. So, yeah, props to him for going 17 points out of the first.
Absolutely. There was that weird question that almost was almost challengeable, like because he said it was
the McFarlane USA thing.
As he says, running, it was like track and field, running and
cross country, right?
Cross country and track and field are actually two different things. So I almost wonder if that would have been challengeable or not. But
he gives a lot of information. Yeah, I've been there before. It's always a little weird to know what to do if you have a gut feeling on the right answer, but you aren't sure if it's word for word the answer. He did that thing that you do, and like sometimes they give it to people, but yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of in the realm of benefit of the doubt. But you probably, if you want to get those points and you don't want to leave it to chance, what you probably do is you think, okay, cross country, running, track and field. Track and field includes like hurdles and things like that. Cross country is a specific type of running, and running is a more general designation that would apply to both of the other two. If you want to give the most general answer there, that's going to get you the points. You answer running. Right. Because there's basically no way they can look at the answer that you're expecting. If you think it's in the family of running, here you say running and say that's wrong. So I think if you're trying to get the points by doing the vague thing, you say running, but
which is what he did. And I think actually what he did what was wrong, I think, was he tried to clarify too much because he went running and then he kind of slipped in and said, oh yeah, running was like a track and field kind of running thing. Like if you just went running, there would have been no question. Like, okay, makes sense. Good to go. But sometimes you can talk yourself, as much as you can talk yourself into an answer, you can also talk yourself out of an answer by being too specific about things at times. So, all right. So we do the sports category. So she goes with DreamWorks Animation, which, what were your thoughts on going for that slice of strength as far as like Liz versus Roka? I mean, what are your thoughts?
I think I appreciated the fact that they had put it on the wheel. I thought it was smart. I commended Sam for probably working with her on that. I would imagine he did. I think, gotta silence that call. I commended them for putting that on the wheel. I think it was a smart decision. I think if you're looking through the now near 150 slices on the wheel and you're trying to come up with stuff that will have a good chance of skunking someone, there aren't that many options, especially with a guy like Roka, who's, like 75 years old. He's seen like everything. So I think with DreamWorks is it's a strong option that they would use. So I thought when I saw it and the choice was made, my feeling was DreamWorks animated films started coming out in about 1998, give or take. They've been around for 23 years. They haven't made more than about a movie a year, and probably less than that. There's probably somewhere in the range of 23 or so DreamWorks movies. There might be a few more, a few less, but 20 to 30 would be my ballpark. So if you want to put a slice on the wheel, they'd better be giving you questions like, what's the name of the aunt who does this thing? Or how many times does this character have to try this thing? They better be giving you questions like that if you're going to miss. Mm-hmm. But the shit that Liz missed, I was really surprised by, because you don't take a category like DreamWorks Animation if you don't know that those two comedians are in Prince of Egypt. Yeah. Or you don't know just I'm going to get which movie Shen is in. That you have to be able to get those questions, because those are the whole point of putting a slice on the wheel. And when you talk about a 3-rounder, you can't afford to not capitalize when you're given the opportunity. I always say to people, if you don't have something on the wheel that you can go perfect or knock someone out in when you put spinners and opponents, you're doing it wrong. Yep. So I was disappointed for Liz, because I think Roka was playing perfect. She had the opportunity. She picked something she felt strong in. And I think the minute she had to go to multiple choice and she realized that she wasn't going to go perfect in the category, I think she started to get shaky hands. And I think that's a tough thing. It's just a tough thing to avoid. It happens to a lot of players. You miss a question in a tight match. It's how we were against Shazam last year. I hate that feeling. And I could see it in Liz. And it's disappointing too. You feel it's embarrassing to pick something with spinner's choice and struggle on it. It's just not a good place to be.
I mean, at the end of the day, also, it didn't end up costing her points because of the Oscar question, but the challenge there, the interesting thing, it brought to mind the whole actually Giancarlo Stanton thing for me. The whole, it says Kung Fu Panda 2, Kung Fu Panda 3, or whatever. Or she said the wrong answer first, but then got to correct it, like you did in a way. But Mark hadn't heard her. The challenge was accepted. What were your thoughts? Was that a rightful ruling? What did you think about that aspect of it?
Yeah, well, a couple things. from a strategy and gameplay perspective, I'd have to rewatch it, but you know, it's a crucial moment in the match because Liz has already gone to multiple choice, I think, and Roka's already stolen Prince of Egypt. I'm pretty certain.
Yeah.
So she's already on the ropes.
Yep.
Liz probably has all her repeats at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So she's in this moment where she is obviously on the right track. And I would have repeated that question more than once if I really needed to just like zero in on the correct answer. Because that's what you have those for. You're burning those repeats to give yourself a chance to buy points. And that's a situation where it was evident she could have. So with what happened, I think she was a little rattled. I think she answered a little quicker than she would have liked to. Now, if she's in that situation and she wants to try to right the ship after she's already given that answer, so she says, Kung Fu Panda 3. Mark says, excuse me, I couldn't hear you. If you want to fight for your answer, what you do there is you go, Mark, I initially said Kung Fu Panda 3. I would like to revise that and issue Kung Fu Panda 2 as it's the correct answer. I realize that I said 3, but before my answer has been confirmed, I would like to issue the second film as the correct answer.
Right.
Then Roka would maybe challenge. And I somehow think that the admission of guilt and prefacing it that way might have given her a more favorable ruling. I'm not totally sure. But it's like, if they haven't clarified if it's right or wrong and Roka hasn't said anything yet, it's difficult. I mean, They made the right ruling given how it played out. I think you have to. She said the wrong answer. And then even though she said the right answer, like, because it wasn't like our situation with Action where they said Giancarlo what? Because that's a clear lead, right? Like, let's say I thought Esposito's name was Stanton, and then they say Giancarlo what? It leads me to believe there is another Giancarlo I was supposed to answer.
Right.
But if he just says I can't hear you, what did you say? I mean, no, there's no lead there. So I thought Roka like arguing it after the fact was classless. I mean, he apologized, but it was also just like, dude, you know how this game works. They made their fucking ruling. Like, they're not going to change their mind because you make some petty argument about the fact that you would have stolen the points. Like, get over it. If they
he said the answer. I mean, Mark said that Kung Fu Panda 2 is the correct answer. You can't just let him steal that when he's already said the answer at that point. So it just made no sense to me to argue any further.
Because also Roka hasn't read the rule book clearly. Because what he needed to do in that situation before they went to the challenge card was say, in my allotted moment to argue my challenge, I would like to issue the statement that she said Kung Fu Panda 2. You asked for the correct answer, and she said 3. I knew that the answer was Kung Fu Panda 2, and I would have answered Kung Fu Panda 2 if you had given me the opportunity. So I should be awarded an opportunity for a 2-point steal, whether on this question or another DreamWorks question, because you did not give me the fair opportunity based on the rules in the rule book to answer the steal, because she played incorrectly. And then Liz would have had her opportunity to argue because that's what it says in the rule book. Mm-hmm. Each party gets one opportunity, then they go to the card. Roka doesn't know that, obviously, because Craig's the captain of his team. And so he played it how he played it. When they came back, he tried to make his challenge and be all like, well, this is how it should have gone. It's like, dude, they made the ruling. It's sealed. It's a sealed envelope. You can flap your gums all you want. Nothing's going to happen here. You have to make that argument when you are given the chance to make the argument.
Fair enough. Absolutely. We already saw that earlier in the whole Star Wars match where they had the rebuttal moment already, and that went that way. So it's almost like you have to know this now. If you're going to win at that level, you have to know every your way around the rule book. Not that there's loopholes, but there's ways that you have to make things work. So it's a weapon now that you have to use. If you haven't, then you're going to lose out on things. But
yeah.
Well, all right, Billy.
I think we should let's bring on our other guests. They have arrived. They are bright-eyed and bushy-tailed on Denmark time. They are the newest members of the First Class League, Kat and Sonny.
Hey,
what's up, Kat and Sonny? How you guys doing?
How you guys doing?
Good. How are you doing?
A little bit tired, but other than that, pretty good. It's actually my birthday today, so I'm in a good mood.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, man. Happy birthday.
Thank you so much.
We planned this entirely. We knew what we were doing.
I had a feeling.
It's just for you guys. What can we say? Well, we're glad that you're able to join us. We're definitely going to be talking FCL a little bit later on and other matches. We do want to talk about we have Ben here for a little while longer. I want to talk about the main event from last night. Did you guys get to watch the pay-per-view last night?
Yes,
Okay, good.
most definitely. And spoiler alert, but congratulations.
Thank you.
There we go.
Appreciate it. I appreciate it. It was
We are reporters.
yeah, it was a good win. I very much needed it. I needed to start the season that way. So happy to have it happen.
Well, let's break
Great
it
match.
down then. Let's break it down. You do now. Did you watch the match, the Miller Roca or the Miller Roca match while you're playing, or were you prepping too much?
I was prepping. I watched it this morning though.
Okay,
I got ready to talk about it, and also I'm a psychopath and I can't not play along with matches, and so I'm not even kidding. I woke up first thing this morning and realized that during my prep time I had missed both Preston James White and Roca Liz, and I was like, oh my god, I have two matches I get to watch right now. So, first thing this morning, mighty hungover, and I watched every second.
I love the fact that you love the game that much still. That just makes my heart warm. So all right, so you didn't watch at the time, so you go into the night. Now I gotta say, my first reaction to this entire match, the overall reaction to this entire match, I could sense how happy you were being able to revert back to your old action days of like taunting and like the things that Mark Riley would used to have to apologize to you for, because you've been holding that back for a long time now, and you just felt more comfortable from the get-go. How was that for you? Was it like coming home?
Well, it's funny because in the 2019 season, I was still kind of doing that stuff. I mean, some of it towards the end of the year, but the truth is, most of last year, I mean, 2 of the matches were against Dan, and you can't really do that stuff against Dan. I mean, you can, I guess, but it wouldn't have been right. And then Andrew Guy, like, he was having such an episode the day that we played that it just wouldn't have been right either. So in the end, I haven't really had the opportunity to like foot on the gas for a while. And it was a lot of fun. It's fun to just be able to be rude in these matches. It's how I got into the game. I like know now because remember in the old days when I used to do that stuff with action, I was totally fine as a player. I was a good player and I would get away with that stuff sometimes, but I would win matches sometimes or lose. I mean, it was barely 500 in singles. I haven't been able to like lean into it, foot on the gas, since I've been the player that I am now. And so to do it and then play almost perfect at the same time was a really fun experience. It was really nice to be able to do it, stay focused, but then also just be trying to tear Riley apart. I really enjoyed that a lot.
It felt like somebody who like they changed themselves for someone in a relationship, and then they break up and they're still around them, so they just lean back into all their bad habits to like rub it in their ex's face. Like that's what this match felt like.
Well, particularly Riley is one that is susceptible to that anyway. We guys saw that back when Drew faced him and everything else. He kind of reacts with a laugh. He laughs at it because
yeah.
As friends. But there's a part of him that's kind of like it takes that just for a second, just enough of it away. He's like, oh shit, where am I? And he has to go back to it.
Him missing the first question of the match was I couldn't have scripted it any better in terms of my ability to just laugh at him for the whole and Riley and I are, I mean, off the record, not even off the record, but you guys all know we're close friends. I mean, that's why I ignored a call from just now. So we're Riley and I talk all the time, but like in the match, I knew this was going to be how it went. There was I wasn't going to hold back for even an ounce.
Well, that's the thing too, that Riley is a true professional. We found it much later on. I mean, he's a true professional that he understands what you're doing and is not going to take offense at it. It's part of the game to him. He knows it for the most part.
I hope he doesn't take offense at it.
I don't. Maybe I'm assuming things, but I mean, it just seems like he's the kind of guy that understands the game. That point, in general, so you make it through round 1, and you miss, of course, the famous Bateman, Mrs. Bateman. Is that one of those family movies you've never seen? Is that what it is?
Well, I want to ask this to Kat and Sonny. So, guys, are you 80s movies fans? Do you guys watch a lot of 80s movies? Are you a fan of the whole genre, sort of in general, or no, not so much?
Sorry.
Just a fan of movies in general, but 80s movies are like it's more hit and miss maybe a little bit, and it might be because we've been growing up in the 90s and then always been focusing a lot on sci-fi and fantasy, but it's hit and miss. I would have missed that question as well.
So if I was to ask you guys, like, who plays Marty McFly in Back to the Future, you probably get that right? I'm assuming?
Yes.
So then if I was to ask you who plays the lead in Teen Wolf the same year as Back to the Future, do you get that question right? And then no shame if the answer is no.
No?
Probably not.
So in my opinion, with the way round one goes, the fair question that they were writing, that they decided, I heard PJ talk about this, they pivoted away from, is who plays the lead basketball kid who turns into a wolf in Teen Wolf. That's about on par with most of the rest of round one. It's not obscure, but it's obscure enough that, like you guys just said, you know Back to the Future, but you don't know Teen Wolf. Right. For round one, that would have been totally fair. We both would have gotten it right. I think the idea that who plays the lead in Teen Wolf 2 is a round one question it's intentionally like a fucked question, because like I don't even, aside from like people who grew up watching it, PLD, I like don't know anyone who's seen Teen Wolf 2 who's close to my age. Why would you ever watch that movie? Like
when you're on when you're sick and it's on cable a lot on CBS on Saturday all day.
I didn't think it was an unfair question by any means, but I definitely think that if you're writing those questions for round one, you're like, well, Riley's like 44 and Bateman's 32. I wonder which of these guys would more likely know who the lead in Teen Wolf 2 is. It feels a little bit like if you look at that and you go, this is the match I'm writing this question for. It's a little bit like fucking obviously. Come on, guys. Like that's like asking me, I've used this example before, but it's like, name one of the two stars in Ballistic X versus Sever. Like you ask somebody who's 20 years old right now, they don't even know that movie exists. I remember the trailer coming out when I was growing up, so I would know the stars, even though I never saw the movie. It's the same idea. It's just generational. So I just think like, I didn't like that question for round one. It's a fair question and it's a fair miss, but it just didn't feel exactly in line with most of what you see out of a round one. It felt like a little bit intentionally screwy, but whatever. I mean, it was my miss. He capitalized, Riley's good.
I will say the reason why it's a fair question is because it's not some obscure actor who didn't do anything else. I mean, it's Jason Bateman. Like people study Jason Bateman. Like he's not a wheel slice, but like you watch enough Jason Bateman movies, you probably know what movies he's in. That's kind of like makes it a little more fair, like as a round one question. Like
I also understood too that like if you were to ask somebody who grew up in the last, like if you were to ask somebody who was in high school to college in the last 5 years, what actor received an Oscar nomination for reshooting all of Kevin Spacey's scenes in All the Money in the World? Like that was such a story when it happened that we all were aware of, that in 20 years, even if no one talks about that movie because they won't, they would still remember that the answer was Christopher Plummer because it was a big deal at the time. So Jason Bateman replacing Michael J. Fox as the lead in Teen Wolf 2, probably to Riley and his generation, did matter. It was probably a big deal. It probably was like very significant.
Yeah.
Agree. And that's what it is. It comes into being generational, subjective.
Generational, exactly.
Exactly what happens. All right. So when did you get the wheel now? You get the wheel, did you get the wheel that morning or the day before or a couple hours before?
They sent it to us. They sent it to us at like 10:30. Remember when I told you I studied for 7 hours the day of the match?
Okay. So you knew right away what he put on.
Yeah, they made a mistake with this wheel. They keep doing it. They're not supposed to. They're supposed to mix the wheel up. Right? Like, but they keep doing this thing where they put the strengths across from each other, which is annoying because it gives it away. I mean, I don't think anything I put on the wheel was a giveaway. I was pretty sure. And I had prepared for ideas that I thought Riley was going to put on. I hadn't actually considered Superman because it seems too studyable. But it was smart on his part. He did well with it. So it was a good wheel for me, but I mean, there was still a lot of, there's a lot on that wheel to look at. Yeah, there was. It was quite
Reese Witherspoon on there. That was one that was. I was going to be surprised. I was going to be happy to see what you guys would have done with that one. But of course, we got Spirit's Choice, both of them. So we get Superman. And so you got to study Superman that morning at that point. So you were pretty much prepared to steal. Would you have done well if you had gotten any chance to steal
his Superman questions?
Yeah,
I would have gotten 8 points. Yeah,
about 8 points. All right, that makes sense then. Okay, that's good. Now Tyler Perry seems to be your go-to now. At one point, that's what I want to ask though. At what point does it become like, all right, I've done this a couple of times now. The categories are going to start getting deeper now. I mean, where does that start to be? Maybe I shouldn't go to the well once too many times, so to speak.
Well, it's funny. As I was preparing for this match, I started to think about there are different kinds of players, and this is interesting for you, Kat and Sonny, because you guys are going to be in the FCL, so there's not a lot of game tape on the FCL players. There's some, I think, some fan league players probably that are in there. You guys will be able to watch a little bit. People have podcasts, and people have, you can do some research as far as what people know. But
Late
it's
to the
very
party.
important. Yeah, it's a very important tool to go and try to figure out what people know and don't know, and sometimes it can be pretty time consuming. So, also, if you get to know people, you can draw a little bit of a profile of how willing they are to work versus how willing they are to, like just some players, it's different. So like playing Dan a couple times last year, that was a really specific, unique challenge. Bibiani and the kid, like those are really specific challenges. Riley's not as specific of a challenge because I know how busy he is. So I know the type of stuff he's willing to work on. And I also know the type of stuff that I don't think he's willing to work on. And so because I've put Tyler Perry on the wheel somewhat notably once, and it's been acknowledged, I knew there would be one more opportunity to use it before it became something that whoever I played would just instinctively spend time on.
Right.
Because it's studyable, but it's a hard category to study. It's not something you can study in 20 minutes. It really takes some elbow grease. You really got to roll up your sleeves on that category. Trust me. It is not a fun category to study. And so because of that, I knew that I could put it on against him. And if it happened, he would probably struggle with it. And I was willing to burn it on Riley because against players that I think are a little bit more willing to do that work and have the time. I mean, he just launched a company, so the guy's very busy at the moment. I just expect they're going to put in a little bit more effort, like with something like that. Like they would get the wheel at 10:30, and by the time the match happened, they'd be an expert. Because that's what I would do if it was reversed. So I was willing to do it for that reason, but it's not something I'm going to be able to go back to again. Like, I don't think I'll ever be able to use Perry on a wheel again because I just don't think people are going to, I don't think I get away with it.
You think
but I knew I was prepared for it. That's the point, to answer your question.
All right. So you think there'll come a time when one of these things like you could go back to it in the rotation after a certain amount of time?
It just depends. Not in good conscience. The whole idea of a slice like that is that you're expecting you're going to go perfect or you're going to knock someone out with it because it's such an annoying slice to study. And if you can't knock someone out with a slice like Perry, it's no more valuable than any other narrow slice you can study. So, yeah.
Makes sense.
Well,
Okay,
while we're talking about wheel slices, Kat and Sonny, have you started thinking about wheel slices for the FCL? What your strengths and weaknesses are? Don't reveal them here, but
well,
Yeah.
me specifically, at least, like my strengths are very much in Star Wars, and I do want to compete in the Star Wars division. So that's all of the Star Wars movies, definitely. No matter what movie comes up, that's going to be a strength of mine. And when it comes to Inner Geekdom, I think we both looked at all the new categories. And there's been a lot of movies that we've had to catch up on, and there are still some stuff that we definitely have to catch up on and rewatch. And all of a sudden, there's a lot of studying that goes into Inner Geekdom, even more than before. But yeah, I guess you feel the same way about it.
Yeah, but I ain't gonna reveal my strengths or my
No.
weaknesses. I ain't gonna do that.
You know who the strategic player is? Okay, that's a smart player. That's a smart player. Real quick, we do have a couple of Streamlabs and super chats before we get into round 3 of Ben's match there. Hitman Hudson, thank you, donates, says, Ben, I have a question for you. Who played Cassie Lang in Avengers Endgame?
Who played Cassie Lang? Oh, that's his daughter that he sees when he goes home and she's older now?
Yes.
yeah.
She's a very well-known actress. So.
Can't think of what her name is. I can picture her, but I can't think of who that is now.
It's Emma Furman, I believe her name is. I want to say Emma Furman.
Is that one of those things, PLD, where you know it 100%, but you're trying to act casual, like you just had to think of it? I think it might be Emma Furman.
I don't want to make you look.
Oh yeah.
I believe
you did the entire
Ed Harris
last
and Amy
film.
Madigan, they were probably in around 13 films together, give or take. I don't know.
Maybe 13 films. Eric Lynn in the super chat, someone wants to know the questionable part of the Teen Wolf 2 questions. They said he learned that he turns into a werewolf. He came to that realization in the first film.
I addressed that in the chat. It's his cousin in the second movie. It's not the same character. So,
that's what I was thinking. I was like, well, that makes sense.
Interesting.
Originally, I think it was written for Michael J. Fox, and then when they decided not to have Michael J. Fox in it, or whatever reason scheduling wise, when they put Jason Bateman in, they switched it up by making it a different character. I think at that point,
his father from Michael J. Fox's father appears in the second movie as his uncle. So
yeah,
how interesting.
So and Jake Acavetta also donated just as happy birthday, Sonny. So there you go.
Thank you.
Hey, there we go.
Again, happy birthday. Okay, so let's get into round 3 now. This is the time where things go a little wonky, but we're all good about it here. Let's talk about your 2-pointer, because I actually had a question about how much you knew. Who directed the 1998 reimagining of Godzilla? You took a long time with that one. Is that one you had to fall back on, or is that a Bateman thing?
I think you go. So I've spent, like I said, I've played 41 matches. That doesn't include free for all or exhibition over 5 seasons. So it's a lot of questions. It's a lot of moments. It's a lot of studying. It's a lot of preparation. I've talked about the fact that Roland Emmerich has directed Godzilla. I've watched Godzilla, right? That's all happened in my lifetime, but there's so much information. I mean, 7 hours of information that day crammed in. So when you get asked the question and your instinct is what it is, this is why I say the thing about getting someone comfortable. Like, I almost repeated, because like, if I had said Roland Emmerich and it was wrong and the answer was like, I don't know, like Dean Devlin didn't direct it later, but like Dean Devlin or like somebody else who was kind of at least somewhat in the, like, what if they were like, it's F. Gary Gray? I was like, oh, of course it was F. Gary Gray, and I forgot, like some shit like that. It just would have been one of those moments where I was like, man, why didn't I repeat and take the extra time? I knew that. And so it didn't feel like a slam dunk. There are moments where it feels like a slam dunk. I knew it was right by the time by the time I answered, I was sure it was correct.
Okay.
But it was like, I don't know if other players are this way, and I think I've explained it this way before. And I read a book kind of recently about memory, and there's some people that have this very specific condition that is referred to this way. But like, so when I get asked a question, the best example I can give is in the speed round, the old speed round, the good speed round with the buzzers. You get asked the question, and as your brain is registering that you know the answer, before you know what it is, but as your brain is you see or feel like a shape or a color. You feel it, like you can just feel it. If it's like green or it's red, whatever it is in you can just sort of feel that it's happening. There's like a natural reaction happening. That's what moves your hand. So when that happens, you have about 1.5 seconds to confirm the information that's happening inside your brain and your body so you can answer the right answer. It's kind of the same thing. When they ask you the Roland Emmerich question, you're like, okay, I saw something, I felt something, and that something was Roland Emmerich. It was like green or whatever the fuck it was that I felt, and it was leading me towards that. And then the 8 or 9 seconds after that, I was trying to figure out what else it was. But nothing else really felt as green or red or whatever it was as that first thought. So because that felt like the right answer, and I was pretty sure it was, I got to trust my gut because I believe it's correct. That's like the process. I know that was a convoluted way of answering it, but that is kind of the way that it works with gut answers. Is you have to, I do genuinely see or feel like a shape or a color. That's like how it happens when I recall information.
Right. Okay, makes sense. Now the elephant in the room, kind of, we do have to discuss or touch base on. Obviously, if you are a Patreon of the Schmodown, you got to watch the match live. There was a production miscue, so to speak, scoring error, etc., whatever it was, where a question like Mark Riley got his 5-pointer first before you got your 3. At the end of the day, nothing really changed as far as the scoring goes. It just had to be we had to reshuffle around, and the production crew always does a great job, and it call out the time like when they do have a miscue versus the times that they don't have a miscue and give us the entertainment you guys deliver every time. It just shows how good they usually do. But it happens occasionally. It happens, especially when you're going live. You go live. This is live TV, whatever you want to call it. But the particular angle I want to go at is that given that it didn't, even though it didn't change the outcome and it did change the order of your questioning, at one point you might have thought you were one. Did it mess with your mind as far as like, okay, I have to get back into the energy here? What was going through your mind as you had to answer again?
Well, I learned my lesson in Atlanta that just because you have a significant lead and you feel good doesn't mean you're going to win. So after Atlanta, I swore I would enter round 3 as calm, cool, and collected as I would never, ever, ever take for granted a moment in the last round again. So when I played Dan in September, I told you guys after I found out right at the end of the speed round, when they told us on screen, and I found out that I was up 6 points. They revealed it slowly, and I didn't even react. I didn't like boom. I literally just raised my hands. And I just sat there, and I like the sunglasses. It helps because I can close my eyes and I can breathe and like move my stomach, and it doesn't really show on camera sometimes if I need to center myself. And so this time with the same thing, I just knew, ignore all of this. This doesn't matter. None of this concerns you. Be ready for your 3-point questions. Stay locked in. Like I had to reset a little bit when they said like, and your winner. And I knew Riley was razzled because he had missed his 2. I knew that he knew the right answer. And the infamous poll, Toby Jones, is just, that's such a classic, like he pulled the 10 times harder answer on accident. Like that's such a harder answer poll.
Great.
But he pulled the harder answer by accident. And so when it happened, I was like, okay, he's shaken. I know that he's embarrassed that he just did that. So I'm going to let him sit in that and just live in that moment because that's not my concern. I just need to stay as calm as I can. So they took us off camera and I turned off my camera. I muted myself, hands on the table here. And I just in through the nose, out through the mouth for about a minute, just as deep breaths as I could to just try to center myself as much as I possibly can. Cause like I got like straight up PTSD in this last round now. Like I will never, ever enter a final round anymore. Like having any belief or confidence that I'm going to know the 5 or it's going to go my way. So I have to do everything I can to stay totally focused. And I was totally focused in September. I just didn't know the answers, which was the bummer. That was the brutal part.
Right. Wow.
I mean, sometimes the shots don't go in, even when you think you got them. So
right, exactly.
Wow. Just one last question on the miscue. Were you aware of the score at that point? Like, so when he was saying in German, were you like, I'm not. It's a tie. It's a tie.
I think I saw it on the screen, so I think I was aware of it. But again, I just wasn't doing any of that stuff in my head. I was when he announced it, I reacted because like I just figured it was right. I just figured I was missing something, kind of a deal.
Right. So, okay. All right. So you get your win, you get your big win, and we can celebrate everything else. And Kaiser comes in. How are you elated? Are you relieved? What's going through your mind at that point?
When you start the season off, like I said when we started the show, there's a lot of pressure to win your first match. It's not like it used to be. It's not like it was in 2018. There's no more like every win that I get, people are going to pat me on the back and be like, "Oh, good job. Way to take care of it, man. You've got this thing." Like it's championship or bust, and we all know it. So last season, if it taught me anything, it's just like if I am not winning the belt, then I'm failing. And so there was probably more pressure on this match than there honestly is going to be when I beat Roca, because like it's a grudge match, but I know I'm a better player than Roca, and I know he knows that. So I know we're going to go in and he's going to take that seriously. So I think like if I had lost this match because things hadn't gone my way, and that's how my season had started, and I had to play in the tournament kind of a deal, would have been what it would have been. But it was a relief. More than anything else, it was just a relief. It was just, I'm just glad that that's over, that I played to the level that I know that I could, that it all went the way that I expected. And that if Teen Wolf 2 is, any other normal round 1 question that I'm used to getting, I have my second perfect game. That's what I wanted. But you miss one question, you're usually going to win. Usually.
Fair enough. Now, then I got to say, now back to circa like 2015, 2016. Roca decides to crash interview like he did every match way back then. You alluded to it already. How excited are you to face Roca one-on-one?
Well, so it should be noted, it hasn't been confirmed that that's the next
Of
match.
course not.
I
Of
don't
course not.
actually know. I don't actually know if that's the next match. I think probably it is, but it may be. You never know. I'm really excited. I look back to the player I was in 2018 when we played last, and he was nervous to play me then. So much so that he pulled that shenanigans that we don't really like to talk about, the horrible thing. And then also on top of doing that, he completely did his thing where he pulls back from his character work at all and didn't engage because he was afraid I was going to get in his head. I mean, he did all the things that are signs that he was afraid. And that was 3 years ago.
Right.
So, I think Roka was having fun last night in his match. He looks like he's pretty relaxed. And again, like I said, he's got an absolutely great manager and an excellent captain on his team. So he's getting told what to do, and it seems to be working for him, which is great. But I have to think that when we play each other, it's just going to be awesome. It's just going to be great. Like, I don't think there's any chance that's not a good time. I can't wait to strategize. I can't wait to trash talk him. And I cannot wait. I can't wait to watch him have to accept what he's lost. It's going to be it'll be like top accomplishments I ever achieve in the Schmodown. Because like there are players that I love playing against and want to beat. But he's Roka, right? Like I can talk all the shit that I want. Roka's the second best player that's ever played the game. So on top of it being a personal thing, it's also like that's a pretty big player to beat.
Yeah.
So
all right. So you're prepared though for his shenanigans at this point where he might draw back and not try to engage. You're prepared to handle that this time.
I hope he has learned some lessons as far as line crossing. I mean, evidence last night he hasn't, but like he manages to push the envelope often. He really likes to do that. He likes to get a little bit. He likes to do something to push a button to get somewhere under someone's skin in a way that I think he tries to pretend it's all character, but I think he knows what he's doing. I think he knows that in a match, it's his best tactic.
Roka's that baseball player who like, gets in the box and like immediately puts dust on the line or dirt on the line so you can't tell where the batter's box is. And then he's standing on the plate and he's like, "What? I'm in the box. What? What are you talking about?"
Yeah, look, again, number 2 player ever to play the game, right? You can't argue with his record. He has the same record over 500 that I have. He's won 16 times in singles. 16.
Right.
There's only 7 players that have ever won 12 singles matches or more. Only 7, right? I'm one of the 7 people. He's got 4 more wins than I do. So like he's a legend for a reason. And I know he'll try to come up with what he comes up with, and Craig will coach him up. I mean, Craig will give him some really good ammunition for this match. Craig trained me all last year, so he's going to have great stuff to use, but it'll be a battle. I wish it was 5 rounds. It would be more interesting and fun if it was 5 rounds. I think 3-round matches are kind of a bummer, but it'll just, it'll be what it'll be.
Like a strike zone, crowd that plate. Yeah, but don't complain when you get buzzed up and in. That's all I got to say when you do that.
There you go. Yeah, right.
Before we let you leave, and I'm going to sign off. Ben had given us an hour, and I really appreciate that. I do want to touch base real quick. The teams was announced.
Yeah.
Danger Zone was announced.
Danger Zone, baby. Yeah.
And you got your tournament seedings, and you're facing Jonathan Harris and Eric Zipper. Your thoughts? Yeah. Your thoughts?
I like those guys. I think they're good people. I think you can't ever underestimate anybody, and I don't intend to. I've beaten them both in teams before. Yeah. Both with Who's the Boss in the same tournament. I think Eric Zipper is a much better player than he used to be. I think Jonathan Harris is a better player than he used to be. I don't know what the level of preparation I expect to see from them is, but I do know what we're going to bring to the table. We're going to play these 2 guys like they are Shazam. We're going to play them like they're Corruption. We're not going to take them lightly for a second. It is championship or bust in this faction. It's the only reason Dan signed up. It's the only reason I signed up. And anything less than that's a disappointment. So I don't envy these guys' position to be in our way as our first match, but I also know that a good set of questions in a bad category, a tough 5-pointer is all it takes in a 3-round match. And it could just as easily happen to them as it could happen to anyone else. So we'll be as prepared as we can. I like Zipper, by the way. Zipper's a player I talked to in the offseason to try to recruit to the dungeon. We were talking very seriously about trying to get him back. It was a question of just available slots. But yeah, it obviously didn't end up working out.
Why do they have to keep doing this to my poor Zipper? Well, you know. All right. Final question idea. Then let's bring that tournament up there. You're facing the midterms. Obviously, storyline wise, I can't help but think that you would love to have the be Danger Zone versus Rushmore in the finals.
Remind me, go back to the bracket there for a second here. So we'll if like seedings work, then we're going to have to beat Deception is the way that people are expecting it. But Blackjack could be good. And obviously the midterms, if they pull it off, they pull it off. But I think people assume we're going to have to play Deception. And I think the ranking is that Rushmore's supposed to beat Press Room. And then I'm guessing like, where do you guys all stand? We can start with Sonny and Kat here. Yeah, what do you guys think? I mean, as far as, you know, a team of Ethan Irwin and Liz Shannon Miller versus Ben Goddard and Paul Preston, how do you guys think that one's going to go?
It's really difficult. Like, they've all had amazing matches and really showed like what they know. And just the match that Paul Preston just had was quite impressive. So I definitely wouldn't count them out. But yeah. You asked me about at least the one that I'm the most like, it's a toss up actually about. So it's very hard to answer that one. I would say that maybe Ethan Irwin would. I have a feeling he's going to have a strong comeback this year as well. So it's hard to root against him. So maybe that's what I would pick. Like yeah.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, Kat, you got anything?
No, I pretty much summed it up. So
yeah, sorry. Yeah.
No,
Talking about it like together.
Yeah.
So.
No, I get it. I think if you take the argument of who's the best player on the table, four people, the best player on the table is Ethan Irwin. So you got to give some credit to the fact that Lightning Time has a player of his caliber. I've likened Ethan Irwin. He McQueenie, a few other players that are in that bracket, sort of the Bibiani bracket. They're like heavyweight fighters in the sense that like they pack so much punch in what they bring to the table. You have to dance around a player like that, and you have to be able to just stay ahead of them barely. You have to you essentially have to outplay them if you're anybody other than that level, because if you don't, and just like a heavyweight boxer, if they catch you on the chin even one time, you're probably knocked out. If they get one good hit on you, right? If you miss once, like let's say you lose a 2-point steal to a player like that, it's pretty likely over. Like a 4-point swing is the end of the game. So I think I would have to give them the edge, but I expect that Preston and Goddard will be 55 times more prepared. I think they're going to throw everything they have at this match. So I wouldn't be shocked if there was an upset. And that's why.
I'm actually feeling the same way. Like my gut's on a just pure ranking of knowledge and gamemanship, going based on last year and trying to do as much as we do this year so far. I think Ethan Irwin and Liz Shannon Miller are the stronger overall team. I just feel like after Liz's match and after Paul's match, I feel like that Paul and Ben are trending in the right direction. So my head says that Ethan and Liz should win. My heart says that Goddard and Preston are going to pull the upset.
It's really interesting because it's the only match in the first round where all four players are free agent signings. So in theory, it's the most level playing field. I think the X factor is Goddard. I think Goddard has to have a good first round, and I think they're going to put a strength of Goddard on the wheel because I feel like Goddard's strengths don't overlap at all with Ethan Irwin and Liz Shannon Miller because he's the Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, a lot of energetic type stuff that they might not be as into, and that could be where they maybe find an edge. But I do agree with Ben; they're going to be the most prepared team of them because they're going to look at that first round match and be like, "We got to be 100% ready."
Yeah.
All right, yeah, I think so. It seems pretty likely. Peggy,
there you go, Ben right there. There you go. 10 represent.
But yes, to answer your first question there, PLD, as far as the final outcome,
Mhm.
I mean, you'd like to think that JT is a great team player and Roca obviously doing great things under the tutelage of Craig. So you figure that the two of them come in and they have a really great run on their side of the bracket. And then, maybe we match up and it's a Titanic thing. But I guess that's the question. As a spectator, would you be satisfied if there was any other final matchup than that? Would there be another final matchup that you'd still be satisfied with?
Satisfied? Yeah, I mean, I could love to see you guys facing Paul and Ben, or even Liz, and it just wouldn't be as satisfied. I mean, anytime I get to see you and Dan facing Roca and JT, I mean, just right there, that's the scripted match, right? That's got to be the one that everybody looks towards.
Yeah.
There's other ones that are good, but that's the one we can be key on. And real quick, are you surprised at Roca being with JT and not the Barbarian?
Yeah, totally surprised.
Okay.
But I think that there was probably a pitch that involved when they pitched me, and they pitched me hard. Their pitch was, if you come back to the exchange, you pick your teammate. That was the pitch, right? So they said, if you come back to the exchange, you can have whoever's on the exchange as your teammate. And I'll bet you they said the same thing to JTE. Now, it's a funnier thing to say to JTE because I don't think JT was in as high of demand. Whether his ability is what it is, it's just I don't think he was as high of demand. So I think, but there's also kind of a classic. There's like a classic philosophy there that Craig might have looked at that as a real sort of marquee idea. You could put one of the greatest team players ever with Roca, and that maybe he ends up pairing with one of these other rookies that he was so invested in drafting, because obviously Craig, did all the work and is the captain of the team. So he figure he's probably going to want to be with one of these rookies that he drafted, kind of thing.
Okay. Well, Ben, I'm going to let you tell folks where you can find.
It's like it doesn't matter.
Next time we have Ben on the show, and if I'm drinking, I'm going to have a drinking game counter like Billy puts in the private chat. Every time we mention that someone is the captain of the FinStop Exchange, we're going to drink. Although by the end of the show, we'll be very sloppy at this point.
I'm just having a good time with the PLD. That's all I'm doing.
We know. Yeah. All right, Ben. I appreciate it so much. Tell the folks where they can find you. I mean, I know where you can find you, but everybody else.
Yeah, you guys can find me at Ben Bateman Media on Twitter, on Instagram. The big thing I have coming up is I am working on my first album of original music. The first single drops a week from Monday. It's the 5th of April. It'll be up on Spotify, on iTunes. I've got a tour coming in August, and the album will be out this summer. So that's the big thing I'm working on. I'm really excited. I put quite literally over 100 to 200 hours over the last several months on this. I actually just 3 hours ago got the pre-save link on Spotify for the first song, which I'll put in the chat here.
Oh yeah.
So if you guys click on that, you can click on it and it'll alert you when the song is live on the 5th of April. And
actually put it in the private chat, and then I'll post it, and they can actually click it from the link, because you can't click it from
you got it
or whatever. So private chat will do that.
Perfect. Yeah, so that's kind of what I got going on there. And yeah, as you guys know, Action, Nerds and Suits, all the other places that I do it. And you guys can find me on Schmodown Backstage at 12:30 every single Tuesday. Doing that. So thank you guys for having me tonight. I really appreciate it. It means a lot. And click that link, guys. I got a digital show on the 10th I'm doing. So
that's true. I'll put that in the link as well to Stages. So
yeah, it's 10 songs. I'll be doing the whole album plus a few covers. And yeah, I know it's not Schmodown stuff, but it means the world to me, and I've been working my ass off on it. So if you guys do want to check it out, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, Ben, thank you so much, my friend. I'll see you. We'll talk later on, Ben.
Thanks, guys.
See you, Ben.
Later, Ben.
Nice seeing you.
All right. So, well, that was Ben Bateman's talking about the captaining of the FinStop Exchange and the tournament.
Yep, a lot.
God, that's why I love Ben being a heel more. He's able to unleash that. I missed how he used to do that. Never quite did that as a phase that could tone it down. Now it's all ready to go whenever he can do it, as much as he can do it. So that's
all gonna wait
Put on the
fangirl over Bateman. So
I love this Ben, but not gonna lie. When Bateman does that stuff, that's like old Team Action days going. It's got to come back at some point. Team Action's got to come back in some faction. I don't know how it's going to be, but in some way, shape, or form. Maybe in a faction, maybe maybe Guy will manage at some point. Who knows? The Action faction, I've been pushing that for years. I want to see it, but Either way, welcome, Kat and Sonny. I'm glad to have you on again. This time a little more different. Last time we had you on, you were pushing to be drafted. Didn't quite work out your way.
Unfortunately, no.
But you do have something to fall back on now, and still get your head in the game, so to speak. And there's Maxwell Haddad in the chat.
Oh,
that's
hey.
true. He is also be in the same boat that you guys are in, although he is singles and you guys are more IG, so he'll still be around the same thing. Let's put those pictures up there real quick. Yes, there we go. Kat, First Class League. Sonny, First Class League.
Yep.
So
Looking
tell
tired.
me about that. Tell me about that. How that all went down for you, and what your feelings are now that you're taking that giant leap forward.
Well, do you want to start with that one?
Well, it's very interesting. I have no idea what to expect. Like, no idea. So
No
it's and I have.
I'm the producer. So.
Well, yeah, it's but since I'm in a geekdom, we are in a geekdom players, we're gonna come in a little bit later in the season, and I think that's good.
Leaves more time to study, which is that's a good thing.
Yeah,
always.
And especially now because I work 2 jobs, and so I'm a bit busy. So especially the next couple of weeks, it's going to be very, very hard for me to study up. So after that point, I'm just gonna get ready.
Laser focus.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but it was quite a surprise actually to not the fact that we didn't get drafted, because we kind of knew beforehand that okay, we are unknowns, at least to many in the Schmodown community, and we're also foreigners. Like we are totally different time zones, and I know a lot of managers was thinking back and forth and going back and forth on. So are they even going to be able to like come over here for a live match? If that's ever going to happen, can they hold belts? How does that even work? So I totally get the decision there. And even though I did a live stream myself, sitting and reacting to the whole draft, and then when we didn't get drafted, that was a bit of a bummer, like I didn't have my big, oh yes, moment during that live stream. It was more of a just whistling out slowly kind of deal. And also in the middle of the night for me. So I was already kind of tired. Then getting the chance to be in the FCL, and with all these amazing people who are also now have been announced to be in the FCL. Just can't wait to meet them, and also get a match against some of these people, and just basically have fun. Like that's always been our approach to this whole thing, is if we get drafted, which then didn't happen, or if we did get to play a match, which is now going to happen in the FCL, then the most important thing here is to have fun with it. And just enjoy the fact that we're in this amazing community and we get to interact with all of these people, and with you guys as well. So we're just enjoying every moment of it, and the fact that we get to continue on doing that.
You say you didn't get drafted. We had David Campbell on recently, a fellow FCL competitor, fellow European, and he made an enlightened comment that the person who won the draft was Brad Gilmore and the FCL, because now you get all these amazing people into the FCL, and again, it's like if you had gotten drafted to the Schmodown, again, you're unknown, you're in a different time zone. Who knows when or how many matches you would get. Now you're in the FCL. Now you get a chance to shine, to really show what you can do, and it's just maybe a better opportunity than some people might get in the Schmodown. So
that's true. Yeah,
and the best part about it too is, though, because you are more unknown than some people, you actually have a chance now to showcase yourself for the draft, and for not even for the draft next year, potentially even for a late season pickup, as people have been saying. They're going to be at least 3 free agency pickups, they said, this year. So if people aren't cutting the mustard and you're doing well at the FCL, that might be a great place for you to be picked up at that point.
You never
And
know.
now you're showcasing yourself, so that's a good thing.
It most definitely is, yeah.
Now you mentioned all the people that were picked for the FCL. Is there anybody you're specifically excited to be working with potentially? If you do get a match against them, maybe, or even just rubbing elbows with, so to speak, virtually.
Well, late to the party actually, and it's I've been watching them for a while, and then also watching them in the Schmodown, and they're just great people. And being able to just interact with them and maybe get a match against both Vanessa and Robert, whatever's going to happen, that would be pretty cool. But right now we're just excited to actually meet the rest of the players for real and get to talk to them, and not just you've done a little bit of smack talk on Twitter at least.
Oops.
I was a bit more laid back on that, but yeah.
Whoops. One of my favorite answer I've gotten somebody.
It slipped, that whole tweet that I just typed out and pressed sent on. Oopsie.
Oops.
Did that rant get out there? Oh no.
Oh boy.
It wasn't me, I swear.
You were hacked.
You're
That's,
hacked.
right. That's the best way. I always claim you were hacked. No idea what happened. Now we got to ask, what happens if you guys face each other? Are you guys ready for that?
Yes.
Oh, we know she is already. God, I mean, there wasn't even much hesitation. Sonny's like,
Well,
boom.
Again, I think it's the more your approach to it is maybe going to be a bit more aggressive, heel-ish approach to the whole game, and my approach has always been more laid back. Like, I know I'm going to win if we face each other, so I have no reason to.
It's true though,
worry.
but I'm just gonna have fun with it. Like,
I mean, we love heel Scandinavians in America, so you lean right into it.
Apparently, you do. Yeah, it's that's a big new thing. It's just you need a villain, hire a Scandinavian. So, yeah.
It goes
those
back to
sound socialists.
too. That's where it comes from. Mighty Ducks 2, they were the bad guys. So, since then we've been like, they must be bad.
Yeah. Just hire one of the Mickelson brothers, and then you're good.
That's a good point. That's a great point.
Right.
Well, I think we should really move on to some of the going back to the other matches that we had this week. Did you get to watch these matches this week there, Kat and Sonny?
I did get to watch most of them. It's been difficult catching up on, because now there are a lot of matches coming out all of a sudden in the Schmodown, and the whole season has just really kicked into high gear. And then on top of that, well, Kat already mentioned it, that you're busy with working 2 jobs, and I'm busy with trying to keep our channel afloat and editing all the time, and then there's the studying thing. But I did get to watch most of the matches, all of the matches. Some of them I had to fast forward a little bit just to make sure that I did see who won and who answered which questions and who got what category inside of round 2. So yeah, caught up on that, and then I always tell Kat if there's something that she missed.
Yes. That makes sense. It is true. We are getting a lot of matches now, a lot more, and that's a good thing. To me, that's a good thing. I mean, it does make it hard to get everything on time, but it's definitely worth it. I'd rather have more matches than less, I'll tell you that much. Especially with all the people they have now. So many great players. I know we got Peggy in the chat. She's debuting next week. We'll be talking about that in I'll announce that now, Billy. After this episode, Billy and I will be on stereo to do a C2A extra where we'll do some previews for next week's matches. We find that call to action and we talk a lot, I guess. So we don't get all the things we want to get out in the allotted time of 2+ hours. So we decided to go more in stereo. So.
That's always a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Until our voices will run out eventually someday, but not this day. Not this day, my friend.
Never.
So let's go back to the first match of the week. It was Elliot Dewberry versus Video Drew. Now, Video Drew to me is one of my favorite players in the league. And again, it's not about necessarily trivia. It's about a character for me. But she is someone who can do both. She's definitely someone who he had a couple perfect games. She's usually ready to go. I like her in the dungeon, of course. Kaiser brings a lot out of her. And we go against Elliot Dewberry, who has always been underrated. I feel like he had this, with McCougar for a while, obviously wild berries, but it does have the round. I mean, it's called a dewberry for a reason. The perfect first round is called a dewberry for a reason, right? So, what do you think about this match, there, guys?
Well, it was hard not to root for Video Drew because we also just love her and love her character. And saw about the whole Wildberry split up, and just how it feels like Dewberry kind of stabbed McCougar in the back. So that's rooting for Video Drew, and then seeing that outcome, that was a good thing. And that's at least my thoughts on the whole thing. Don't want to make any enemies here, at least right now, but
That's all about it.
Cat ready to slit some throats.
I don't.
I'm here for it. That's all. I'm all here for it. So
Cat doesn't make enemies; she makes victims. So
wow, I like that. And Billy writing promos already for it.
Scandinavian friends, I have to support them.
Well, the match was a decent match. I thought they kind of had a little bit some stumbles in round one. Dewberry and her both actually stumbled on one. Like funny was like the Addams family and Addams family value. I love the fact that Barry Sonica was the answer. But they missed a chance. They had multiple choice. It could have been there's a couple of berries you could have put in there. Have you ever noticed that sometimes where like you watch the multiple choice answers and you're like, there could be some perfect multiple choice answers thrown out to you to like really confuse you. And sometimes they don't do it, but sometimes it's just perfect multiple choice answers. I look for them. I think they missed a few in this match, but otherwise, though, it was a good decent round one enough. But then we went into round two, and what we have here. What did they do? Who did he spin? Oh, let me try to go back to my notes here. It's been a while since I saw this one. Remember this one, Billy? How'd it go?
Not off the top of my head what he spun.
I think he
spun away from something. Didn't he spin away? Did he spin? Was it? No, that was the other match. Oh, they're all
90s movies.
together.
We had 90s. I know the two round twos were 90s movies and Paul Thomas Anderson. That's what I remember.
Yeah, so he spun 90s movies,
right.
Which
that's where the Addams Family Value question came in.
It's so it's such a broad category. It's always, again, as I always say, anytime it's a decade category, I don't care who you are, unless you're Drew McQueenie in the 80s, where he's seen every single 80s movie ever made and done a podcast episode about it.
Every single one.
It's not a category you necessarily want to get into.
Right.
Yeah, Leo Logan points out in the chat that Paul Thomas Anderson was for Spinner's Choice. Yeah, so we knew that was Video Drew getting her strength of hers, which no shock that Paul Thomas Anderson is a Video Drew strength.
Right. That was a tough miss by him. The first one, Leo Logan mentions that as well. The Heather Graham instead of Julianne Moore, but for who plays the adult actress, Amber Waves.
Yeah,
Roller Girl. So it's like one of the things you're kind of like, well, you had it between the two, I guess, in a way, but it just seemed like I don't know. That was a tough miss. I think that kind of really, really hurt him.
It is also one of those things where, like, you think back to the movie and you're like, okay, her name is Roller Girl, but was that actually her name? Like, what could she be? Amber Waves, like, and sure, her stage name is. So I understand like the maybe mixing those up, but it's
Yeah, it is what it is, though.
My big takeaway from this match was there more perfect 5-point question for Video Drew in the history of the Schmodown? Like, she gets a clue question as her 5-pointer.
That is so good. That's such a good question, especially for her. I was like, I just had a big smile on my face when it came up. I was like, this is what we're going to go with right here.
For the first time ever, singing your answer actually paid off. So, normally that backfires on people, but Video Drew got it done.
She did indeed. So at the end of the match, like I said, it was a good one. It didn't seem to be in doubt to me. I never thought that Dewberry was going to be the one to pull it off. I thought Video Drew pretty much had this all throughout. It was closer than it could have been, I think, but no surprise for me.
Also, I feel like Elliot Dewberry got a little undone by his 5-pointer because it's classic monster movies they all kind of blend together. Like, it's like, you're going to get a good guess. it could be any of them. It feels like.
Right. That's true. But all right, should we move on to the next match there of the week?
Yeah, let's move on to that. Next we had Christina V making her debut against another debut of Rick the Rager Radis. This
Chrissy having her debut from the Fane family for that Peggy in the chat is a part of. Had a strong showing so far. Lamadru had a great start. We got Peggy going next week. But Rick has also made a good name for himself when he was he passed through all the after shows. He had a character that he's got the kind of character. Like, I hope he's good at trivia because he's gonna
Very
be
entertaining.
not.
Because if he doesn't, it's all done, right? That's what it is.
Yeah.
But they both kind of stumbled around a little bit during round one. There's not many round ones in this day and age. This one ends 5-5, which I think it was. That's not
5-5. Yeah.
That's like an old school Schmodown round one. And nothing against either of them. It could have been nerves. It could have been anything else. They just had a couple of big misses. And I felt like they almost got in their heads a little bit. Did they really see that, or is that just me?
Might just be, yes. Of course, it's their first real Schmodown match, both of them. The nerves, that can always be a thing, is my assumption at least. But yeah, you're right. It was a little bit of a stumble there in the first round. But I thought that, like, they both, when we got towards the end of the match, not taking the result into consideration just yet, but it felt like they were both getting to relax a bit more after that first round, because that was just really, I think it just hit them right there and then. And if it had been the second time they played a match, I'm pretty sure that it wouldn't have been 5-5.
Yeah. Well, I think what helped them both get a little relaxed even after the stumbles was that they both had, it was 5-5 at the end of the day. Even if there was some stumblings, you're still both in the match. It's like 0-0 at that point. It's like, all right.
True.
Put it behind you.
You don't beat yourself up as much as you would if you're suddenly down 8-5 or 7-5 or something like that. You're like, yeah, I had a terrible first round, or not a good first round, but we're back at 0. You know, it's all equal. It's interesting. I think that Rick Radis kind of like actually playing a character might have helped him a little bit. He kind of like was able to lean into the character work to maybe calm his nerves. I think on the flip side, I think Christina V, she wanted to calm herself down. I think maybe she calmed down a little too much. I think she got a little too nonchalant and maybe gave away some points especially in the second round when she maybe seemed a little too laissez-faire. Like,
I could say that in a way. She had a couple of this like sometimes where she basically said, I don't know this, I'm just gonna guess randomly. It seemed to like rattle her a little bit, just a little bit. And I think something that's gonna, with time and more experience under the bigger game conditions, that she could definitely improve upon. I think she's got a solid base still. But we went to round 2. The pressure was actually back on Rick, honestly, after the 5-5, because he gets J-Lo, which you could pretty much tell from the get-go was not going to be a strength of Mr. Radis. I don't think he watches too many J. Lopez romantic comedy type movies. Doesn't seem to be in his wheelhouse. I could be wrong. But,
not if you look at his character, at least. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And later on, actually, he did admit he was on the Gucci verse. He said that, it's not his strength. But the impressive part about that is he maneuvered his way through that category very well. Given that, I mean, he got the first one right away. He got through almost. He got through McConaughey. I mean, he got through it. I think did he get a perfect round? Did he go through all the way? I mean, I know we checked out a multiple choice a few times. I don't think he had a miss.
I think he got all 4 right. Yeah, there were no steals because it was
right.
Was it 12?
I think he checked down. Yeah, I think he checked down. I think it might have been 13-5 maybe. Or no, he had a steal later on. That's true. So, but either way, he got through it. Didn't give her a chance to steal. Didn't miss anything. So that's good enough. When you don't know a category, if you do that, that's pretty solid. And then, of course, it fell apart for Christy Bay.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, because she has to take on horror, of course, now, which is definitely a strength of Mr. Radis. We know that Radis's, as you can say, his his mentor, his roommate will say, it runs a horror podcast. So he's very strong in the category. And she doesn't seem to have, this is definitely not a strength for her. She fumbled her way through it, and he was able to get some steals. And at the end of the day, it went to round 3, and it was kind of almost at that point it was going to happen. You knew what was going to happen. Whether it's going to be a TKO at that point or not. I felt bad for Chrissy, but I feel like she played better than her results were. It just didn't seem to go wrong. She had a bad round 1, a round 2 that should have helped her for him that didn't, and a round 2 that just was the absolute worst possible outcome for round 2. So we end the match. It's a TKO.
It's tough to watch.
Yeah, it was tough to watch.
Yeah.
So what do we think about where they go next? Does Christy have a good outcome? Does she need to? What do you think she needs to do? And where did Rick need to bone up on? What do you about you, Bill?
I mean, I just think Christy needs to. I think she just needs to get more matches. I think it's going to be as she gets matches, she's going to get better. I don't think we saw the true competitor from either one of them. The question is like how many matches is she going to get? Because it's like she got TKO'd regardless of whether or not it's from nerves or whatever. Is there confidence lost maybe a little bit and putting her in another match, or not necessarily not in another match, but how many matches do you put her in there? I would like to see her maybe go up against some of the other like where she stands amongst the rookies. And I think Rick just is going to keep moving forward. Big win for the Finstock Exchange, so
and they needed it after they fumbled with Lomas, but now they seem to be moving in the right direction after Roca got his TKO. Radis got a TKO. He's jumping up these standings pretty quickly there. So
all of a sudden, yeah.
I mean, he's going to live and die in his rookies, obviously, I think, honestly speaking. You know that Barbarian's going to get him points. Roka's going to get him points. JT and Roka together, if I get points, it's going to be his rookies coming up. We'll have to see what they do. And if they're solid, this could be a very Finstock Exchange type of year.
Yeah, if the Barbarian really did his homework, we'll see. If Craig chose the right people with all the people that he vetted and talked to.
The captain of the Finstock Exchange.
The captain. Oh, he's the captain of the Finstock Exchange?
That's right, and according to Ben Bateman.
Chance to do some things. Oh my gosh, so good. Oh
yeah, and Constance says Christy will bounce back. I believe in her. I think Jake. I agree. Christy's way better than the match showed. That's just what happens sometimes. Everybody has a kind of a rough match in the beginning. We'll have to see what happens with it. But
I do want to see it was a very entertaining match. They were both like somebody I think in the chat was talking about how they were cracking up Christian and Mark. They had a good rapport between the two of them. I would like to see Christy maybe a little more locked in the moment. Like, have your banter in between questions or whatever. But when a question's there, I want to see her more locked in because, I think Leo Logan talked about, she missed the Johnny Depp question for Nightmare on Elm Street. That's kind of like a kind of well-known thing, even for people who don't like horror. So, and that was the giveaway on that question. Then there were a few that were kind of like that. I'm like, if she's a little more dialed in, a little more locked in, she gets to that answer. Maybe don't give up as quickly and think, I just don't know it. I'm just gonna not
guess whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but I gotta say though, entertainment does count for something. Christian, if you're entertained, you tend to get more matches than if you lose and you're not entertaining.
Oh yeah, that's a big part of it.
You can't win.
Yeah,
you can't win. Be entertaining as hell.
And it's it's factions now, so it's you can be as entertaining as you want. If you're not gonna get me wins, I'm gonna drop you. So
I agree with part of it.
You only want people to get more matches if they're going to get you more wins or if they're going to get the points. So I'm not saying that Christy can't get points and that she's not capable of getting points. But if you're just entertaining, you're not gonna stick around for too long because people want to win. You know,
You're not wrong on that aspect too. I think there's the truth probably lies somewhere in between. Let's put it that way. I would say
it's really actually it's interesting to see the difference between someone like Video Drew, who's very entertaining, very character driven, but when it's time to answer the questions, she's locked in and answers the questions, versus someone who's newer and maybe is trying to get off their character work because they're an unknown or at least a lesser known person. In those moments, though, when the questions are there, you got to be more locked in. At least that's what I would think.
Right, that makes sense.
Got to find the balance.
All right.
Yeah, true. There's more of an incentive now, at least when it comes to the factions, and what you said rightly so, that they need the wins, because now there's a big prize at the end, and you can also get like minus points, like that being a new thing as well. I do think like there's definitely some truth to that whole thing, that yes, you can be entertaining and that can also get you matches, but in this season in particular, the wins are like they might outweigh it, the entertainment factor a little bit. Yeah,
definitely not wrong. I agree with that. I agree with that. All right, any last thoughts on this match before we move on to the final match of the week?
No, I'm ready to move on to the
a good match, a very good match. I was looking forward to this match a lot because I know that Paul Preston is a much better player than he showed last year. He had a rough time with Tom. I really wanted to see what the time off did for him and how he would come back. And likewise, James White, you know, he only lost by a few points. To be honest, he seemed like he had a good head on his shoulders. Seemed like he'd be a good, solid. All our matches we're getting this year, like, this is actually quite a good match. Kind of a good match. I want to see how this one develops. And this one was great from the get-go. The first rounds from both Preston and White. And when you have that happen, the double dewberry, you're like, yes.
Double dewberry.
Love the double dewberry, right?
Oh, yes.
They both seem locked in. They both seem ready to go. And talking about entertainment, by the way, Preston, his pregame stuff, there's almost no better than a lot of the stuff that Preston pulls. He's just hilarious on every single level.
He's amazing. The delivery is just on point.
He can give and take with the best of them. And he's like a yes and kind of guy. You give him anything, and he'll just crack it out of the park. So going into round 2, that's where we're going to start separating ourselves. You know, we got Preston getting Emily Blunt, and he blew through that for the most part until the last question. That was a tough round 2 question, I gotta say. One being Emily Blunt's character working for the government agency at Sicario before being brought up to the task force. Because as we know, the government agencies, they're all a bunch of letters anyway. The CIA, is an FBI, ATF. I'd see
those are always difficult, yeah.
Right. And so you get all multiple choice. What are you going to get? CIA, ATF.
A lot of letters. Yeah.
A lot of letters. But in this case, I think it's better that you check down to multiple choice in that way, because in the if, and, or buts of the question, like, you could guess CIA, and if you're wrong, and it's FBI, the person gets 2 points out of that. This way, at worst, it's a 1-point steal.
It made sense, definitely, yeah.
So, which it was. It ended up being a 1-point steal. He did guess. He guessed ATF, and then James got the right answer, which was FBI. But solid enough. It's a solid round.
And also,
lost you for a second.
Those were the two possible answers: ATF and FBI. So if you guess at 2, the other person's going to say the other one, and they're going to get 2 points. If you get down to multiple choice, even though you know what the multiple choices are, you guess then, and then, like you said, it's only the 1-point steal. The other thing I loved from round 1 was the dueling slamming of the whiteboards that we got in this
violence. Violence.
The eagerness in there, yeah.
I didn't forget about that first until you mentioned that. The other round.
Mark's even like someone's going to break their equipment in this match.
I don't think Schmodown's going to pay if you're a whiteboard gentleman, so you better watch it.
It's going to happen at some point.
It will.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. The other part of Emily Blunt round that made me chuckle a little bit was the question about the Muppets. Like, Emily Blunt has a cameo in which film that stars the Muppets? And the answer is the Muppets.
Yeah,
It's one of those questions that can trip you up. Still,
and it is because you're like, there's no way the answer is the Muppets because they actually just said that, right?
Yeah. That's too obvious. But then,
Right.
and it's like that's when you can get in your own head. Like, okay, so is it the obvious one, or is it something that I haven't even considered yet?
Exactly.
And then you go down a spiral. Yeah.
And then Leah says exactly. I remember watching James face as this happened. And James makes this like kind of moment. He's so frustrated with it. But
so honestly, you don't put the Muppets into question. Just say, what movie does Emily Blunt have a cameo with Miss Piggy? Like, we all know Miss Piggy is from the Muppets. That's inherent to the question. Like,
but you know what though? To play the devil's advocate, like Sonny said, sometimes you do put that in there because it does make you go, that can't be the answer, right? It's got to be one of the other Muppet movies.
Yeah.
It could go both ways. It could make it easier. It could also make it harder doing it like that.
It's always that science of trying to figure out what's going on with the questions. So.
Well, especially because it's like it's got to be the most recent one because it's Emily Blunt, and if it's not in there, you're like, what is the name of the most recent one? It's because it's always the Muppets do something,
right?
But then when they get the question, you're like, oh yeah, it's just the Muppets, yeah.
Right. So I love that. I actually like the question for that reason. It made me chuckle a little bit. But and then for round 2, this is what the downfall of James White. Spinning 70s, which is kind of a tough category if you're not like Jeff Snyder or like Drew McQueenie does 70s pretty well. There's a few people like who are older who tend to do it. But the younger generation, 70s tends to be one of those tough categories. And it was for him.
Yeah, again, it's a decade and it's so broad. So it's like it can be really tough for almost everyone, no matter who you are, if you spin a decade. Yeah.
He doesn't do horrible in it, but he misses, like, he gets stolen twice, I believe. I think he got the Way We Were, the Robert Redford question wrong. And I know that Paul stole the Richard Gere one. So at that point, it was really kind of harsh on James at that point, going into round 3. You almost feel like at that point, again, it was more inevitable at that point that it was going to be over. But it was so disheartening specifically because of how the match began with the 2 burger rounds. But at the end of the day, my takeaway from this was that Paul Preston was extremely strong and did show exactly what I thought he could do. I'm excited to see where he goes moving forward. What about you guys?
Very much so. Very much so. Like I've always found, yes, as you said, like he's very, very entertaining and his promos are simply amazing. His delivery is on point, but his knowledge is always there. But he's just had some really tough matches, especially also when he was on the Team Tom. And he was just kind of expecting for them to at least just blow through some of the competitors. But it was just, luck of the draw and wheel spins and everything. And it can also happen to everybody. So I think a lot of people, us included, have just been waiting for Paul to just really, now it's his time. And I feel like now it is Paul Preston's time. And can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what I expected from Paul Preston. I mean, we just had Ben Bateman on, during Ben Bateman's run to the title a couple years ago. His toughest match in that whole tournament was probably Paul Preston. I will say this, last week we had a bunch of matches where the people who lost still looked really good doing it. That was James White this week. James White has had 2 matches before, one where he played really badly and won, and then one where he played really well and lost. So we really didn't know where James White maybe falls into that, where he falls in. He played really well. He got a category that isn't one of his strengths, but he didn't get knocked out or TKO'd. He made Paul Preston answer questions in round 3, which is not always the case. And then he gets undone by if the 70s wasn't bad enough, his 5-pointers from 1954. So it's like
that's right. Yeah. Oh man, yeah. That was like, okay, it's over now. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
There's like 5 people I know who like 7 Brides from 7 Brothers or whatever that thing is, and these are people like musicals. So it's like
I would think there's at least 14. There's 7 Brides and 7 Brothers. You're saying they didn't even like the movie?
No, they don't even like the movie. I don't know them, Paul. I know. They're probably not alive anymore. It was from 1954.
Yeah. Oh, Roka's still alive.
Oh. Oh, always gonna get that one in there.
Roka was in the Wolfman from 1941 with Ellie Newberry got. So.
All right. Well, that'll end up our recap of the week. As far as the matches go, we should talk about quickly the cutscenes, of course. We already briefly mentioned the Mark Ellis and Clark Wolf one at the beginning of the pay-per-view, which was fun. Good to one of those nostalgic ones, seeing the Wolves of Steel on screen together again.
True.
Doesn't really lead to much, more likely. So not much to talk about, but it's fun. It's nice to see it happening.
It's always nice to see those guys. Always nice to see Clark Wolf again. And yeah, always nice.
The hierarchy is starting to be a little weird now. We got like, what's Grace? She's like and then we got the Clark.
I'm not sure I know how
to. And then where's Christian fall in? Where is this hierarchy going at this point? I think we need Grace to come lay down the law and say what exactly is what. What is our hierarchy here?
She's probably going to do that.
Jada convince Christian below Clark now because I think Grace is going to say that she is. That's my guess.
If it's Grace doing it, it's just going to say Grace and nobody else matters.
True.
So yeah,
that's probably true.
Yep.
But what we got all right. So we had the one at the beginning, which was kind of like last week's pay-per-view, then they replayed it. Was the Grace and Andrew Guy scene, which to me is always worth talking about even again because first of all, our Lord and Savior Andrew Guy. Secondly, of course, the fact that we now are going to get Andrew Guy on the desk.
That's freaking exciting.
I cannot wait for that.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Just when those cutscenes started, when they started putting them in there and with Guy and that whole, storyline, they started to play that out and with why do people keep telling me to wear a mask and all that good stuff. And the way they then played it out and kind of like, because I'm sure a lot of people were going like, okay, so Team Action, are they going to like, are they going to come back? Like, what are they doing here? Where are they going with this storyline? And the way they then turned it around with him talking to Grace and, he's going to be an announcer. He's going to be on the desk. And as he said, towards the end, him and Ellis, they're going to have some fun.
I realized they're going to be best friends.
They're going to be best friends. Exactly. Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah.
Love that angle. And what we mentioned before, too, is the cutscenes are definitely getting up in production value. You're seeing a little more of the flow on camera, not just on Zoom anymore, like we were kind of stuck with in 2020. We get like Drew actually out at Collider Studio, which I guess Collider doesn't even own it anymore. So they don't even know who's in there anymore at this point. So who knows who Drew was bothering at that point. I almost wish we had seen somebody come out and what the hell are you guys doing?
Who what? Yeah.
What? Actually, it might have worked for the show. So the next one we get is we have Chandru, Laura talking about replacing Winston on Sweat.
Yes. That took a fun turn.
It did. It seemed like this was a very serious tactic at first, like way back when this first began. But now it's coming a little as more going on. It's becoming more of a comedic, like almost Keystone Copper team for Chandru because he can't get anything right at this point now.
Yeah, and I like that.
Laura's getting a little pissed.
Yeah.
But bringing on Lon and then following it up with John, that made me very happy. I love seeing Lon and John together. Obviously, Lon and Paul are not going to split up at any time doing the final exam. They're a good team. Getting the Lon and John cutscenes together is brilliant for me. I love it. I want to see what's going to happen as far as Delinquent versus Professor goes. Because it seems like he's kind of going back and forth now a little bit. Right?
Yeah. That was a bit like, glasses on, off, what's going on, who owns the code for real. But that's kind of what I really liked about that whole cutscene and the way it turned from being, that serious feel about, okay, so what is going on with Chandra? What is he doing? And what Laura being angry at him and all that stuff, and then turning it into being this more of a comedic shtick, which is something that Lon is just amazing at this point. And the way he turned into the delinquent is still something that I think is one of the greatest, character turns inside of Schmoedown history. And yeah, so I like it. I always feel bad, and when that whole thing started with Chandru getting mad at Winston, I felt so bad for Winston because I really like Winston. So I'm kind of glad that they're turning it into being more of a comedic thing instead of just being. It was a little bit sad a lot of the time when they approached that storyline. So I enjoyed that at least. So yeah, and I know that it's not because I update Kat on the matches and the results and everything. But the cutscenes I know that you haven't seen, so it's not because you didn't like them. It's simply because that I didn't talk to you about them. So that's
you
my
didn't
fault.
relay the information.
I didn't relay the information.
Wow.
See how bad she is. You see how mad she is? No wonder she got that fist up for you, man. No wonder,
What
man.
job?
Yeah, I'm sleeping on the couch. It's right there.
Fair enough. Right.
A dossier for each match and each cutscene, several dossiers, 1,000-page dossier for her.
There you go.
Yeah. Just like, well, yeah, when you're teaching and you're correcting assignments from the students, I should be turning in an assignment weekly as well, just as the students. Just be like, oh, this is what happened, and
Fair
now you're up to
damn,
speed.
son. You're cold. That's cold. That's cold that you're not doing that for us. Should be in the valley.
I know. It's been focusing on my own birthday. How selfish am I?
Right?
Yeah.
You've
Now
had so
you're
many.
ready.
Gosh.
Right. It's not like it was your first birthday or anything. Come
Happy
on.
birthday year.
Yeah, it's only the big 3-0. It's nothing important.
Milestone.
Yeah, milestone. What do you mean?
We get older each day. Why don't we celebrate that? Right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, birthday.
Exactly.
Come on.
Come on.
So what do we think about this? Where is it going to go? Do we have is Winston going to be replaced at some point, do we think? Or is this going to end up going nowhere where Chandru just is stuck in the mud? What are we thinking at this point? Any idea?
That's where I come up short. And that's why, because I was just wondering, okay, so what is going to, because the way it looked at first was, okay, so Winston is on his way out as a manager, or is just going to go back to being a competitor? What's going to happen here? And then they did the comedic turn. And even though I enjoyed it a lot, it did make me a bit more confused about, okay, so where is this thing actually going? And what's going to happen to Winston? I hope he's not going to, get kicked out as a manager, because I think he's an amazing manager, and just when it comes to enthusiasm and just the love that he has and puts into the game, like some of those post match interviews where he's just, really been pouring his heart and soul into the whole thing. And you can see how much it moved him when his competitors either lost or won. I think that's something I would miss to watch a lot if he's not managing anymore. But yeah, curious to see where it's going, because I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah,
I think there's two answers to that question. It depends on where, or depends on what's driving the storyline. If it is just a storyline for storyline's sake, it could go any direction. Who knows? If it's real life that's driving the storyline, aka like Winston's availability. Like maybe he has got a job, or maybe he got booked for something or something like that. Then it's gonna, obviously they're gonna have to do something about it. As far as in the immediate future, I think the thing I want to see the most is I want to see the professor join with Chandru, but the delinquent, and you don't know which one's going to show up in any cutscenes or any of these conversations. Like,
I would love that.
That split personality.
Yeah, really like lean into that whole thing.
I need the old McFoley angle of a bit. You got to get that going on. the two faces of Lon. Maybe they'll eventually merge and have a third face of Lon come out at some point.
Don.
There you go. The final cutscene we should talk about, honestly, might be the most hilarious cutscene we've had, or at least in a while. The Gucci or the Myrtle and Bateman prank call, which led to Gucci's wild goose chase.
I think I mentioned that one to you at least.
No,
I didn't.
no.
Wow.
None.
I was sure I said something about a prank call, but no, it's yeah.
Nope, you did not.
Nope. All up to me
there
here,
in your
guys. Like,
wrongness.
yeah.
There in your wrongness.
Yeah.
I can't deal with this.
Yeah. It's can't watch. Don't have time to watch the matches yourself, and it's all on me to just give her the updates. Yep.
Yeah.
Working hard. Got two jobs. Working with their fingers to the bone.
Exactly. And I'm just sitting here at home and making videos and playing with my computer, whatever. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
You should make her a little video that updates everything that happened in the Schmodown.
Oh yeah, like a video essay instead. Would that be better?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. You heard it.
We now saw we are actually working on relationships as we talk. This is the Belfry PLD relationship hour. It's good. If we have any problems come in, we'll work them out.
Thank you.
The cutscene. My biggest takeaway is that Dan has better comedic timing than I thought he did.
Yes,
that was really good. Anything with Gucci? Yes, please. Where did Gucci steal a Tesla from? We don't know.
Is that his car? How even? Like last time I heard, that was not his car. Did he even own a car?
He says he owns it. He says it's his. He says he's test driving it, and that's what it came.
He says.
He says a lot, though. It's true.
Yeah.
I would believe that's not a story.
I mean, as someone who had a conversation with Gucci where he literally said contradictory statements in the same conversation, you never know.
What I took away from that initially was that Ben and Dan have pretty good chemistry, and but it's a different kind of chemistry than you would think. You expect them to be they're the number one players. They're going to be taking, but they're bringing a little bit of cut ups to the dungeon now, and it kind of has a more dungeon feel. And I surprisingly liked it. I surprisingly liked what's going on with it. At first, it said Ben was going to not be into it. It's kind of that he was all in on it as well. It worked for me. I love seeing Dan and Ben do this, and it makes them a little even more likable, I think, in a way.
Oh yeah, certainly. I really enjoyed that, and always seeing a new side of Dan actually is quite entertaining, and that's always been for a long while. It's been something that I've really enjoyed seeing with Dan, him progressing. It's always been a great competitor, but seeing his character work progressing, and now also in promos and now in cutscenes, and I think he's always surprising in that way. Not that I ever expect for Dan not to be able to be good at something, because he seems like he's good at almost everything. But it's still every time it's oh yeah, he can do that as well, and he's good at it. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say this cutscene was much better than I thought their first cutscene with Kaiser from earlier in the season, where I was just kind of almost confused. I'm do they like each other? Do they not like each other? What's going this was definitely two guys hanging out. Let's prank people we don't like. Hilariousness. Dan saying Gucci doesn't have my phone number because I gave him a fake phone number was great. Knowing his parole officer's name is also fantastic.
Oh yeah.
And then Gucci having that inner monologue running to himself of was it his sister? Wait, that was legal. I didn't know it wasn't legal.
Those llamas, I thought it was legal. Or some animal like this.
He gets to where he's going, and he finds the gift, and he puts it on.
Why did he put it on?
It's like he knew he got bested in this moment. Okay, they got
to it.
So since they got me, I'll let him have this one.
I'll sit there and stew.
Yeah, he's never afraid of looking silly. I'll give him that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's figured out that if you always look silly, people will accept anything. So I could clearly see Bobby Gucci just wearing that wig, and saying that it's now the style, like trying to convince people that that's the new.
Buy it.
That's exactly it. But if Gucci kind of like, well, maybe it is. Maybe it is a style now because that's what he
He'll
does.
throw a Gucci tag into it, say that it's the new Gucci, fall line for 2021, and everybody's going to be wearing these in 6 months, and that's what people will think.
No one would bat an eye at it. Like when he showed up looking like a cross between Dracula and Megamind, I was like, yeah, sure,
That works. That works.
That's Gucci, of course.
Gucci, whatever it was.
I need like the many faces of Gucci, like someone to do a montage of all the outfits and all the different, all the time shirtless and.
Oh, sweet. That would be great. That's another chronic thing for patrons. Come on, guys, get on that. Well, that's all with the cutscenes. I think what we'll move on to next. Before you start wrapping things up, but we kind of talked about the team's tournament already when Ben was on. But they did also announce the Star Wars tournament, which I know you guys had a lot of interest in as well. So let's throw that up there and get our thoughts on that.
Yes, please.
There we go. Star Wars tournament. We got Marie Wilson for the Suspects. You got Gold Leader for the Twin Stock Exchange. Zach Burkett for the Stars. Adam Witt for the Dungeon, Andres S. Cabrera for Swag, versus Sean Sullivan for Corruption, and then Thomas Harper for the Den versus Eric Whaley from the Quirky Mercs. So, I guess I'll start taking this down. But let's start the first corner there. Marie Wilson versus Gold Leader. To me, those pretty much seem like no-brainer that they were going to be the ones that they were going to be entered from their squads.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Evan Bushra, as Gold Leader, his debut match against Lacey Gillard, we actually had him on last week. He is a cut up and a half. He's a great character, but has solid knowledge. I think he's going to go far. I really think he's going to go far.
Paul, before we get to the tournaments, we do need to point out the team's tournament. The winner gets a #1 contenders match. The Star Wars tournament, the winner gets a title shot.
Correct.
From our president, #mypresident, Grace Hancock.
True, very true. Right, we did not mention that before, so good pointing that out. We had So Evan is a right pick from the Vince Exchange. The usual suspects again. This makes sense too. What do you guys have in this one? Are you guys looking forward to this match? Is it something you think is going to be a good match? Is it one going to be a clear favorite to you guys? What are your thoughts?
I think it's going to be really, really, really close, to be honest. At least from what we've seen so far, Marie being a Dragon Con player and Gold Leader showing what he did in his first match. I don't have a clear winner in that one actually. That could be a toss-up. I could see both of them walking out of there with the victory. But I'm just, when it comes to the Star Wars matches, I'm always just interested in what sort of questions are going to be asked. How deep cut are they going to be? And also just when it comes to us, so what do we need to focus on? Because not that necessarily it's always going to be the exact same sort of question that's going to be in the FCL, but if we ever get into the Schmodown, and it's just Star Wars is always not only looking at the competitors for us, but looking at the questions and just the competition overall. That's a reason why it's probably my favorite division overall. Is because I'm so much into it myself, and we are so. Do you want to go and get something?
Yes, please.
Warm?
Yes, please.
Oh, sure. You can just do that.
Okay,
you don't have to.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. Please, if you call, please.
It is.
Last year was the best part about the season. It was so exciting to be done live and everything else. It was a very, very great moment from the season last year.
Yeah.
Sonny, you want to be a Star Wars competitor. Did you play along with Debutant and Nathan?
I did. Yes.
And
Those
how
were.
did you?
I did pretty well actually. But it's definitely a thing where I know my weak points. I know where they are. I know what I need to study up on, and I know I can do it. So it's
Yeah.
Fair enough.
but and that's my big takeaway from some of those matches. And that's what I meant by focusing on the questions and like, okay, so how deep cut are we going here? What do I need to focus on when I'm studying? Because my base knowledge is definitely there when it comes to Star Wars. But other than that, it was just one of, if not the most amazing match I've ever seen inside of the Schmodown. Honestly,
Right.
Yeah, always
Well,
talk about that one.
Yes, absolutely. But going back to their match, I will give my prediction. I do think Gold Leader's going to take this. I think Marie Wilson is a strong competitor. I do think she had a couple misses against Sean Sullivan. So I think in Star Wars, it seems to be like whoever has the first miss loses, or comes close to it anyway. You have to be almost perfect as you go along. I just have the feeling that Evan's going to be more perfect than Marie is at this point.
See, I think the opposite. I think Marie takes it. I think they both stumbled a little bit in their matches. Evan stumbled in round one, so did Marie. But Marie, once she caught fire, was just rolled through the rest, came back and beat Sean Sullivan, answered a 5-point question, which until you answer a 5-point question, to me, you're an unproven commodity in the Schmodown. No matter how good you do in round one, round two, even answering 2s and 3s, until the game's on the line, you got to hit a 5-pointer to win. That's when you find out how good a competitor is. She's done that. Gold Leader is not yet. He hasn't been forced to. I do think it's this. This is the match I think is going to come down to like who checks down to multiple choice.
Right.
Like they could both get every question right, and somehow somebody loses by a point because they check to multiple choice. Or it's also be interesting to see what the wheel is like, because Gold Leader in his debut, the entire wheel is movies, and he spins opponent's choice. When it's all movies, there's not really in a new competitor. There isn't the traditional, boogeymen categories. It's all movies. Right. There's a mixed bag of who said it, of vehicles and things. Then you give them that as a new competitor. We didn't find out as much about Gold Leader in his debut as we might have had. He had to maybe answer questions in a more difficult category than Rogue One. So
true, yeah.
All right. Let's bring it up again real quick. Oh, that's the wrong. That's still 2.
I think all of these matches, though, are going to come down to people checking down to multiple choice or missing a 5-pointer or something like that. So
that's what you expect. Yeah.
Adam Witt is taking on Zach Burkett. Now, Adam Witt was I don't know if a surprise is the right word, but you have Molly Damon as a choice. You had Mara Knopik as a possible choice, although I know that Mara Knopik's going to be working on the IG, like defending the IG titles. That makes sense to me to a degree. But you go to Adam Witt. Now, Adam Witt, I actually feel is a very, very overlooked and underrated player. It's only because the Star Wars division has been so good that because he hasn't had a win yet, and that's tough for him. I'm excited, though. I'm very excited to see him compete again, and I want to see him do well. Zach Burkett, we don't know anything about, really. I mean, we know what we've heard. Much we know about some of the Dragon Con players. We don't know much about them in terms of we only know that they've done good stuff. We know that he's friends with Alex Heyman, and Alex Heyman vouches for him, which is not a bad person to vouch. So it's hard to predict this one. I'd love to see Adam Witt win. I just want to give Adam Witt a win. He's
yes, please.
Right?
Yeah. I would love to see that as well. It's same deal as with Paul Preston. Before when it was just like had a lot of good matches, but just never really had that. Okay, just broke the ceiling and just ran off with the whole thing. And I want to see Adam Witt doing that. But I was also surprised that he was the Star Wars competitor that got picked there, and not someone like Molly Damon. So while, as you said, I would like to see Adam Witt win this one, I have a feeling he might not. But it's tough to say, because, as you also said, like the one, like his opponent, don't know much about.
Right.
Yeah.
Billy, any thoughts on that one?
So again, it's Adam Witt. Adam Witt wins just by being Adam Witt, as we all know.
Very true.
The thing about Adam Witt that is, he hasn't won, but he has been impressive in the losses. Famously answering that crazy 5-pointer against Sean Sullivan of like, what's the name of the captain of the trade ship or something? I don't know. Well, again, it's Star Wars. Who knows? So I mean, he has shown that he has the ability to answer questions. I think maybe it's a good thing that he's in the tournament because then he can focus on the tournament. I do think we're gonna get a chance to find out like where everybody is before the tournament because some of these matches coming up will. Adam Witt has Thomas Harper coming up, so that'll be a good preview. That's a Dragon Con player, a former Dragon Con champion. That's who played in the first round of the tournament, so maybe that's a good litmus test for Adam Witt. And then also,
really, he's the one that's considered the big one out of the if any name was the one name heard about the Dragon Con players, it was Thomas Harper is the one was talked about the most. I feel so. I really want to see him.
Well, especially it depends on who was talking because for us, 100% it was Thomas Harper. But when Alex Damon says that Zach Burkett's the best of the bunch, you can't really like fault that at all since he's the at the time was the Star Wars champion. If you're a Dragon Con winner, it's not like you're a slouch at Star Wars. I mean, it's like if you get into Dragon Con, you're not a slouch. If you make it to the final day, you're less of a slouch. And if you win the whole thing, good God.
Right. Real quick before we go any further, I just want to say we got a couple of Streamlabs we missed from before. Weston Nairo came back and said, "Congrats, Kat and Sonny, future champs."
Ooh.
Oh. Let's see if that's in the cards. Yeah.
Got some faith in you, good West. And also Ferris Muthana, always a generous donator and supporter of the show. Just as always, just says hello. So hello, Ferris. We love you.
Yeah, hello, Ferris. As always, my boy.
Hello there. Exactly.
Before we move on a little bit, I want to move back a little bit. It wasn't a cutscene, but we did have the preview with Brad Gilmore of the FCL.
Oh yeah.
Of some of the matches. Was that a hype moment for you? You guys are excited to see that?
Made it real.
Yeah. It was very nice. Also to just like hear Brad talk more about it and see his like enthusiasm and his excitement about this, and it was very nice.
Very much. Like anytime when the FCL is starting to get pushed to the forefront, it's nice, and when Christian talks about it as well, it's like well because we kind of have like we're invested in it. Definitely. So it really means a lot, and as you said, seeing Brad being so enthusiastic about it also is I think we have something quite special, people can expect something quite special from the FCL.
I think so as well. Obviously. But
obviously.
All right, got 2 more matches before we wrap this thing up there. Let's see. We got, of course, Andres Cabrera versus Sean Sullivan. This is going to be a barn burner, I feel like. I feel Ace had his big run last year. I still feel like Sean Sullivan's a little underrated. I actually honestly feel like if I go back and watch that match, that Sean Sullivan lost that match more than Marie actually beat him. That's the kind of way I felt. There's a couple of stumbles there that Sean knows. And there was that weird question that was not in the movie. It was like a quote. It was actually from the shooting script or something like that. And PJ acknowledged it later on that it was kind of a mistake question.
Oh, yeah, that's tough. Right. Yeah.
So I kind of feel like that tossed a little bit in. And not to say that turned the entire match around, but enough of it, I feel like Sean Sullivan kind of more lost the match for it than really was beaten badly by Marie. So I would really love to see. I'm not a big fan of Sean Sullivan anyway. I think Sullivan's one of my favorite people in the space. I would love to see Sean get a swagger and beating Ace would be such a great big thing for his career moving forward. I don't know if he can. Ace showed himself to be a pretty strong competitor, at least until the Spectacular when he faced Damon. Even that Spectacular, he was fine. But so I can't ask me. I want to see Sean Sullivan win because of how much I love him. But what do you guys think about this match?
Never count out like Ace and what he can do. Like if you put him in that underdog situation, he showed us before. Like he's gonna surprise us. So if people count him out again, I think that's dangerous. So I'm kind of actually expecting for Ace to take this one, and also because he got so close last time after that amazing run. He got so close. He has the skills to do this. So if I was a betting man, I would probably bet on Ace for the moment. But anything can happen, especially if you all guys already brought it up. When it's Star Wars division, it's about who misses a question first or who goes to multiple choice first. And it can happen to pretty much anyone because there can be those questions that's going to trip you up. We saw even the mighty Alex Damon, he can bleed. And it's even though he knew the answer, it was just it came to him too late. That can also happen. So that's also once again one of the reasons why it's my favorite division.
I do think that Winston kind of lucks out and that Laura Kelly has a title shot, so that kind of like makes less drama for the selection of Ace, because that's probably why.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Between Laura and Ace. And then I enjoy seeing Shannon go up against Winston, so that's going to be fun. We know that.
Always.
It's always like you're only as good as your last match, and Ace's last match wasn't great, so I want to pick Sean here.
I'm hoping so. I think I can't lie. I'd love to see it, man. I'd love to see it. All right, we have one more I actually could talk about. Thomas Harper versus Eric Whiteley. This is going to be a big one. We already talked about how Thomas Harper was a big name. We talked about him a lot, obviously. They both make sense to be their players from their specific faction, I believe. Is it freaking Merce? Yeah, he's definitely the number Star Wars guy there. Eric Whiteley, I will say, I don't know he has a big following in Blind Wave. The only reason I know that is because the night of the draft, I mean, if you watch the draft, they were like in the chat, like was like faster than I've ever seen move before, like just zip, 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 zip. And once he was drafted, it's like, okay, they're done. it's like, oh,
yeah.
Some of them stuck around, but yeah,
some of them did. Some of them did. It's true, but it was amazing how much they came to bat for him, so to speak. So that's a very big match, man. I don't think Eric has a match before that, maybe, or I'm not sure if he's gonna have a match before that.
He does.
Thomas does have one coming up. So
yeah, Eric plays John Hoey, so that's gonna be really interesting to see where he's at heading into that.
Right. That's true. That's before. That's right. April 9th. So we'll go to that. Okay. Well, that's good. So we'll know where they are at that point. Well, there's not going to be any place to hide for these people. So I'm looking forward to that one. That's going to be a big one. My gut says Thomas Harper because Thomas Harper's a friend of the show and basically C2A honorary member. So I'm not going to be disloyal to Thomas Harper like that.
No, yeah. It's we talked about this and that we like Thomas Harper, definitely. But I would kind of like to see Eric beat him. It's going to be a very, 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 very tough mountain to climb. Even though I know, and I've followed Eric and Blind Way for a long while. He has the knowledge, definitely. Like he knows a lot about Star Wars, but it all comes down to how much has he been studying for this thing? How ready is he really, and how devoted to the Schmodown is he really? So I guess we're going to find out in that first match that he's going to have, and then we can judge a little bit better after that. But yeah, if I were to bet on it, then I would say Thomas Harper as well, because it seems like he's the one that almost everybody's talking about when it comes to Star Wars.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's not always what you know, as we've always kind of said. The Schmodown isn't about what you know; it's about what you can recall in a 15 seconds or in however we know that Thomas Harper can do that because that's Dragon Con is a similar format as far as recalling answers in a limited amount of time. We haven't seen Eric Whiteley do that yet, so until we do, you can't pick against Thomas Harper, and you can't pick against the Dragon Con players really until they lose, honestly. So,
Yeah.
Well, Billy, we have one more thing, and then we're going to wrap up and head out. We do this every week on Call to Action Live. Of course, we're talking about Call to Action's own Nat Vu is going to give us a fantasy update. Hopefully I turn the sound on. We'll find out in about 2 seconds. Nat Vu.
Take 2.
Because I'm extremely attracted to Nat.
I told you I was going to play it every week until I'm back on top, and I am furthest from the top than I've ever been. That's going to be my new intro video. What do you think?
Hell yeah.
I think it's pretty good. I'm gonna run this joke to the ground. Welcome to Nat's Fantasy Update. And I have to say, I'm kind of running out of steam because I don't know how Josh McCouga does these every week, or used to do it every week. But I am running out of ideas of how to keep these interesting. Otherwise, I'm just talking about fantasy. And also, it's really hard because I feel like I'm getting more known in the Schmoedown community. And before this, I could just say whatever the fuck I want. But now I have to be really positive, or people are going to get offended if I tell them to drop someone. Because people are. Back when we did AAA Live, I would say the most positive stuff, and people would still be mad at me. Well, okay, I guess it was mostly mad at Dylan and his polls. But
That's true.
anyway, welcome to Nat's Fantasy Update number 5, and I'm on 4 of these. And I'm running out of ideas. Let's just talk fantasy. Let's just get straight to it. Video Drew versus Elliot Dewberry. This was a really good match. I think that Video Drew is severely underrated, and I think she's only going to get better. So if you have Video Drew, you probably got her at a great value for where you drafted her, unless you drafted her really high, which is still pretty smart because she puts in the work and she's going to get better. She has great character work, so she's going to get more matches. And I would not sleep on Elliot Dewberry either. I know he was a late pickup by Shannon, but don't let this loss fool you. He just had a bad game. He is also very underrated, and I hate that I keep throwing that word around, but it's true for both of them. Next match, Christy V versus Rick Radis. If you have Rick the Rager Radis, then you are going to get some fantasy points. I think that he is such a great character, and because of that, he's going to get a lot of matches, and also he can back it up. So excellent pickup if you have him. I hate talking about people who I don't have on my fantasy team because I really don't. Spoiler alert, it's going to be for all these matches. I had no players played this week. So next match, it was Paul Preston versus James White. Also a very good match. I think that Paul is coming off of a year where he kind of underperformed. Not really. Well, the wins weren't there. And I think he's back with a vengeance this season. So he should have been a high draft pick. And I would hold on to him. Don't trade him away. Because he probably has more value on your team than he does as trade bait. So keep him on your team. And James White really impressed me with this match. I think he played better than he did last season. And even though it was a loss, his stock went up. So if you drafted James White late, then great job. Good on you. Next match, Liz Shannon Miller versus John Roca. See, these types of matches and the next one are going to be hard to talk about because they're all good players. They're all great players. I can't really give you good fantasy advice. You should have them on your team. Yeah, great players. I think Liz had a bad game, but she's better than what she showed because that's just how the game goes sometimes. And next match, Ben Bateman versus Mark Riley. Also a great match. I think Mark Riley is severely underrated again. I keep saying underrated, but he is. He's a former champion, and I think he's gotten better with the times. So I would hold on to him. And Ben Bateman is a top 3 pick, if not top 2. So, I wouldn't. If you have Ben Bateman, then don't get rid of him. Just keep him on your team. He's gonna rack you up points. I always suck up to our guests, but they're never here when I do the segment. So I'm not gonna bother sucking up to Sonny and Kat and Ben Bateman. Thank God, because I would lose my team guy card real quick. But I'm not gonna do that. Instead, what I'm gonna do is talk to you people a little bit. The hundreds of people who listen to my fantasy advice. I know you're down in points. I understand that. You're probably in the bottom 3 of your league, like I am. But all I ask is you have a little. Come with me. Come with me. We're gonna go on a journey. We're gonna take a knee. Take a knee with me. Take a knee. All right.
Coach Nat.
I'm gonna channel my inner Ted Lasso and tell you to believe. Trust the process. All right, because things are gonna get better. Things are gonna get better. All right. Next week we have Paige for Betty versus Peggy Gubbins. That's a guaranteed win, baby. All right. Do not lose faith in me. People who followed my advice. I'm sure there's thousands of you who followed my advice. So just my knees are starting to hurt. So just believe. Trust in the process. Believe in Natty. All right. This summer is gonna be lit. It's gonna be an Asian boy summer. Right? Don't lose faith. Back to you guys. Call live.
Well, there we go, folks. That is Nat's fantasy update of the week.
Very underrated.
Amazing.
Nat's corner is very underrated.
That is very underrated. And Chris Adams agrees. I agree, Chris Adams. He has come along. He is so funny. You see him on Twitch Tuesday. Nat and Dylan put on a great show on Twitch Tuesday all the time. Chris Adams also.
And me.
You're there. Are you now all the time there? I wasn't sure. If it was
I'm there whenever I feel like it, which is all the time.
all the time. All right. Fair enough. I know we did see her in the chat as well. Yes, next round matchup is Peggy Gubbins versus the Boston Badass Paige for Betty. So tune in on Wednesday or Monday for Patreon $10 members. And after the show, if you want to hear Billy and I continue a little bit and talk about that match, preview that match, maybe give our predictions on that match, who we think is going to win, whether Peggy or Paige. Tune in on stereo for me and Billy. But otherwise, what we got going on this week? Well, on Monday, chilled action with Danny, myself, Billy, and the boat, Brad Gilmore. It happens to be the day before the debut of the FCL. So I have a feeling that maybe he'll have something to say about that. So stay tuned for that. Of course, we just mentioned Twitch Tuesday for Nat and Dylan, and I guess Billy. And I think there's actually a chance I might show up in that one as well, potentially.
We don't let him on the show, guys.
It's my StreamYard. I get to go wherever the fuck I want. Let's be honest.
Password.
And then, of course, Call to Action Live will be live again next week. Probably have some guests. We don't know. We're still working on that kind of thing.
Maybe some FCL guests again. We love all the FCL people. So
sure. That's
you never
true.
know.
I like to get these mixes of the young and the old and the veterans and the rookies. So that should be fun.
Mix it up.
So
He's going old. It's his birthday. Jeez, gosh, Paul.
It's not going to call him Rocco. All right. All right, guys. Where can the folks find you?
Oh, well, yeah, they can find us on YouTube. Just type in Kat and Sonny up in the search field there. And then we're on Twitter and Twitch and Facebook and Instagram. Same deal, Kat and Sonny or Kat Sonny, doing reaction and review videos at the moment, going through The Legend of Korra. And we love everything that has to do with the Avatarverse. And then also The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'm actually doing that right now with my dad, who's joining in once in a while on the channel. He's known as Major Dad, and we're having so much fun watching The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And then, yeah, streaming on Twitch once in a while, like when we can, at least. That's always fun, and playing some games there and talking to people in the community. So yeah, come join us. We have a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Oh, muted
Paul,
or
Paul. Earth
Can
to
you hear me
Paul.
now?
There we go. There he is.
yes,
Okay.
loud and clear.
All right, good. Thanks. Always happens. It's always the technology in the Action Army. But Call to Action Live, I'm usually on. Chilled Action, I'm on every week, or every other week, I should say. Turn up to 11 with Billy Belford, which will return next week, where we talk about we're doing the most shocking moments.
Most shocking moments.
Other Schmoedowns, that's what we're doing. We're doing that. You can also find me on Action Industries with Ben Bateman and Andrew Guy for the weekend content. PLD Projects, I do a show called Scoundrels of the Force. Tomorrow's episode at 1 p.m. Eastern with myself, Matty Gunner, and Richard Eric Jarvie talking about Revenge of the Sith, as well as any Star Wars news that has been happening. I know Billy's favorite one of all, one of my favorite ones, though, actually. And of course, Tuesday, March 30th, FCL. Come see it live, baby, live. That's true. Tomorrow is our 3rd anniversary of C2A. I almost forgot about that.
Wow.
3 years.
Holy smokes.
3 years already, guys.
3
Damn.
years already.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. That's how I feel old. Yes, happy birthday.
Yeah, you guys.
Oh, thank you so much, Danny. Thank you so much. And to everyone, I was following along in the chat and saw that people were wishing me a happy birthday. So thank you to all of you for wishing me a happy birthday. It's very early here, so now I'm gonna sleep a little bit on my birthday and just take a quick nap, and then it's out and try to celebrate as much as possible in these weird times.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter at Mr. Billy Belford, and then it's all those shows that Paul just mentioned before that I'm also on. But thanks again, everyone, for joining us here on Call to Action Live. We'll be back again. We'll be back again next Saturday, same time, same place. And once again, thank you to our awesome guests, Kat and Sonny, for waking up super early to be here with us.
And thank you to Ben
Always
Bateman
nice.
as well. Thank you to Ben Bateman for hopping on earlier on.
No, we don't care about Ben Bateman. That guy's a loser.
It was nice seeing him again. Actually, I did get the chance to meet him once.
Okay.
And him and Guy at the first live event, and it was really nice to just be able to talk to him a little bit again.
Yeah.
How brief it was. Yeah.
All right. Take care, guys. Just leave.